Twist of Fate, Uzumaki Descendants. Chapter 1, Twist of Fate. Not many people would believe in the butterfly effect, but one word changed everything for Naruto Uzumaki destiny. But not only him, in the night he stole the forbidden scroll. And these words were told by Mizuki. "Touch Iruka-sensei again, and I'll kill you," Naruto said, his voice seeping deadly intentions, the forbidden scroll still strapped to his back. "Do you know the power that the scroll on your back holds? It contains the secrets of the Kages of the greatest shinobi nation ever," Mizuki said. "In fact, it's rumored that even the Yandame's legendary Hiraishin no Jutsu is contained in that scroll." Naruto trembled at the power the scroll on his back could give anyone with the ability to learn its secrets. Could he? Could Mizuki? Dispelling the thought from his mind, he crossed his fingers and said in a low voice, "Kagebunshin no Jutsu." Hundreds of distinctive pops were heard throughout the forest as a seemingly endless army of clones appeared in the forest. Without so much as a word spoken, the clones descended upon Mizuki and attacked with a sloppy form of Academy Taijutsu. Numbers prevailed as Mizuki was quickly overwhelmed and beaten to unconsciousness by the time the Hokage and a legion of ANBU arrived. In the chaos Naruto's clones provided, no one noticed one of the clones slipping off out of the forest and towards the border between fire and wave country. Naruto knew even if Iruka acknowledged him, Naruto knew it won't be the same with other people. He was not even allowed to become genin, and even if he was let after this, no one would want to learn him anything because of the Kyuubi. But now he had in his hands one of the most powerful scroll in Konoha, one from where he can learn on his own like he did with the Kagebunshin no Jutsu, and now without Konoha holding him back, he can become a true shinobi. After Naruto's clone defeat Mizuki, one of Naruto's clones said, "I'm happy to know you acknowledge me, Iruka-sensei, but I can't stay here anymore. No one will want to be my sensei or even train me. You didn't even let me pass the graduation exams, but in this scroll I have now, I can become a shinobi on my own. I already learned a jutsu just in few hours. If having the Kyuubi sealed in me somehow makes me less of a true shinobi, then I'll just go and crush all of the so-called real shinobi." After Naruto's clone said the last word, all clones dispelled before Iruka had a chance to answer and process what Naruto said. This line of thought brought a new dilemma to Naruto's mind. If he ran away, Hokage was sure to send someone after him. He knew that the people who ran away from their villages were killed. It was one of the few things he had paid attention to in the academy. Avoid any pursuers, he would have to go far away, but he didn't have any money. He was given enough for food and groceries, but he had spent most of it. Even if he hadn't, Naruto was sure he would need a lot more than what he had. It took Naruto some time to manage to climb the narrow spiral of stairs that was used by the repairmen or the non-ninja population of Konoha to climb to the top of the wall. It had become cloudy and the moon was completely hidden behind the gray clouds. Naruto ran on top of the wall towards the main gates. As he reached them, all he needed to do now was to jump from the wall to the trees outside. Naruto stopped in the shadows. He turned to look at his village one last time. His life here had not been a happy one. He had cried himself to sleep for so many times that he had lost count. The cloud shifted for a bit and the moon shone briefly. Naruto's eyes went to the Hokage monument. Four faces stared back at him, their gaze unflinching. Naruto felt a little guilty as he looked at the faces of the great leaders of his village. Maybe it was a trick of the light or Naruto's own feelings, but their faces almost looked sad. Naruto couldn't help but feel that he had failed them. They had never run from their battles. 3 of them had fought to their last breaths, and had never backed down. Tears threatened at his eyes. He had wanted to become like them. In the beginning, it had been his attempt to gain recognition, but later when he had been forced to read about them by Iruka-sensei, and told their stories by Hokage, he had wanted to become like them for different reasons. Now, he was running away, like a coward. His restraint broke as he started to sob. I am sorry." He wheezed between his sobs. No reply came. "I'm not like you guys, Tebeo. I'm not strong." He sniffed, tears overflowing his face. "I'm sorry, Databeo." His shoulders sagged as he turned. A few days later. Naruto was exhausted and hurting. Running away had seemed like a good idea 3 days ago. Now, he was lost in an unknown land, hungry from not eating for 2 days. He had gotten wet in the heavy downpour the night he had left and was pretty sure that he was sick. Usually, a few hours of rest was all it took for him to get better. Maybe because he had the QB sealed in him, he thought. Naruto sneezed. He hadn't had time to rest as he had been running non-stop to get out of the reach of the faster, elite tracker ninja. He was convinced that his head would burst. He could hardly keep his eyes open. The sun on his back made his throat parched. He stumbled and fell down. He didn't have the strength to pick himself up. For the first time since his flight from Konoha, Naruto slept. After Naruto woke up, he was still hungry. Naruto used Kagebunshin no Jutsu to make some clones to help him find something to eat. After he found and ate some mushrooms and fish in the forest, Naruto filled his stomach and remember when he was young he eat fish and mushrooms before he meet Tuchi and Ayam and eat his first bowl of ramen. Since then Naruto started to eat there, it was like a second home for Naruto. Before Naruto left Konoha, Tuchi gave him a bowl of ramen every day to make sure Naruto didn't go to bed hungry. It was the only place where Naruto could buy food with the money the Hokage Gigi gave him. Naruto began to think of himself and back to Konoha. The only people who were kind with him and never bully him were Hokage Gigi, Iruka-sensei, Tuchi, Ayam, Shikamaru, Choji and Hinata. Naruto missed them. Would I have realized these things if I stayed in the Konoha or acted like an idiot to get recognition as I did before? Would anyone care? Would anyone notice I disappear? Would anyone chase me? These questions keep me awake. Would anyone want me? If they know what was inside me. Would anyone see me? For the person that I really am? I was interested in Sakura too because she's beautiful and smart and really popular. I was interested in her only because I wanted to get attention and recognition. I always did whatever it took to get attention. Am I a bad person for doing this? Naruto wondered what he should do now but had nowhere to go. He didn't even know where he was. He had no desire to return to the village that the demon inside of him had done his best to destroy. A village where he was even unhappier than he was living in here. Not to mention he doubted he would be welcomed back with open arms. He was rather surprised he hadn't been apprehended by Hunter Nin yet. Naruto was hungry again after a day. He was very lucky to find some mushrooms and fish last time, but now he was not so lucky. And he don't know what to do. Naruto's thoughts were interrupted when he noticed a traveler, a gray-haired man. He had a package. A lot of scenarios went through Naruto's mind. He wanted to go and ask him if he can give him some food, but Naruto didn't know if it was because he was very hungry or because the Konoha people had treated him all his life. He was scared of doing this and he was scared of what he needed to do to get the food. Naruto approached the man and pulled out of his pocket the only kunai he found and pointed it at the man. I need food and money. Naruto forced the words out, regretting them instantly. He didn't sound as demanding as he wanted to. He sounded so hesitant. Was it the lack of trust in himself that was mentally affecting him? Or was he simply not fond at the idea of threatening a defenseless man? The man turned out not to be so helpless as Naruto thought. He pulled out a knife that had it pointed at Naruto. You think a brat like you can threaten me so easily? Naruto looked down at the kunai, slightly loosening his grip on it. Never in his life had he assaulted anyone, but he had to survive. Conquered by his morals, Naruto let go of the kunai and crossed his fingers and said, Kagebunshin no Jutsu. He yelled before 6 solid clones emerged and surrounding the man and Naruto, shocking the man who dropped his knife. Naruto watched with no small amount of satisfaction as his clone beaten the man to unconsciousness. Shrugging, he stepped over to the fallen man and stripped him of everything he deemed useful. Naruto, however, left him some food and money because he did not want the man to starve like him after he woke up. Training begins. Being a ninja had its perks. Being able to beat people up and take their money being one of them. At first the young blonde refused to do it, resigning himself to sleeping in the forest or in caves. Slowly but surely the need for food and a roof over his head conquered his morals. But he still only mugged people that he believed had money to spare. The fact that they carried more money might have had something to do with this as well. More money in Wave Country being about as much as a beggar in Fire Country. But the money went farther here as well. Thankfully there was a rather noticeable lack of law enforcement here. Having those around could really cut the time he spent in the almost anarchistic country down. Naruto had poured most of the rest of his impressive chakra reserves into more highly condensed clones to patrol the forests in case there was anyone nearby. That should buy him enough time to give himself and the Forbidden Scroll a reasonable head start. Naruto opened the Forbidden Scroll. The first jutsu he came across was Kagebunshin no Jutsu. Unlike the last time, now Naruto noticed he forgot to read the description of jutsu in his hurry to learn it. After reading the description, he couldn't stop himself from smiling. It said that the clones could use jutsu and send their memory to the user upon dispelling. But winced after reading that it required high chakra reserves and could potentially kill the user if they made more than their reserves could handle. Also, dispelling large numbers of clones simultaneously could cause brain damage to the user due to memory backlash. He vowed that he would not make more than 30 clones at a time unless it was necessary or he felt he could handle more. While Naruto may have been an idiot, he wasn't stupid. Just below Kagebunshin he found 2 more jutsu related to it. They were Shuriken Kagebunshin no Jutsu and Bunshin Daibukua. It said that the Shuriken Kagebunshin no Jutsu was forbidden only because it requires the user to know the Kagebunshin beforehand, which is a forbidden jutsu. Bunshin Daibukua was forbidden because it required high chakra reserves, at least Jonin level, to use, and required the user to master the Kagebunshin beforehand. However, both of their uses was amazing. Shuriken Kagebunshin let the user to create copies of weapons thrown in mid-air, creating a barrage of weapons to rain down on the enemy. The area of effect is determined by the proficiency of user, whereas Bunshin Daibukua let the user to create suicide bomber clones which can be detonated by the user or clone itself. It was considered nearly undetectable for non-sensors and non-dujitsu users. He grinned after reading this, as he knew they were not dangerous to him, having already mastered Kagebunshin, which required at least low Jonin chakra reserves to create only one clone, while he had created more with plenty of chakra to spare. This meant he had higher chakra reserves than most Jonin. So Naruto started to learn Shuriken Kagebunshin with a few shurikens he found in the forest. Naruto learned to use Shuriken Kagebunshin, but he knew he had to learn to control his chakra if he wanted to use the jutsu at his full power. Naruto found a rather large village later that day. The people were friendly. Naruto even began to gain his trust in people and not be afraid that everyone would treat him like a monster. Naruto liked the place but had to travel on as not to be found by Hunter Nin. The shopkeepers sold him ninjutsu scrolls if he slipped them a little extra ryo under the table. That might have had more to do with his infatuation with the place than people. Just a little though. Despite his best efforts, the Nuke Nin couldn't get anyone to sell him scrolls containing actual jutsu. It was quite obvious that he wasn't a native shinobi. But he did manage to get his hands on a few useful things. Mainly the 3 scrolls he had laid out on the forest floor in front of him, labeled chakra molding for beginners, chakra control for intermediates, and advanced chakra manipulation. Not the be-all end-all texts on chakra control by any means, but they gave detailed instructions on how to mold chakra to different parts of your body as well as exercises to increase control. The last and by far the most interesting scroll detailed how to manipulate chakra so it can be used in jutsu. It also mentioned something called element manipulation but didn't go any farther into the subject. While his loyal Kagebunshin read the scrolls, Naruto and 25 other clones were walking up and down trees on their hands. While he could create over 800 clones, he couldn't create over 25 that could mold chakra well enough to be of use. Still, getting 25 times the work done had done wonders for his control. Shuriken Kagebunshin Jutsu. Naruto called out as those few shuriken he threw turned into nearly 100. All these days Naruto started training like a man possessed, learned from the scrolls he by how to walk on 3 in water with his clone helping as well and mastering his chakra, and he was ready to learn the Bunshin Daibukua. Naruto pulled the scroll of his back and unfurled it across the ground. Bunshin Daibukua, only users' clones can try to do this jutsu. This technique utilizes the volatility of chakra. The better your control of spiritual energy, the better is the jutsu. Physical energy is pure, unadulterated energy. Individually, it needs to burn up the instant it is created. Too much of it cannot be created and stored without spiritual energy. Currently, the clone has a balance of both energies, but if the user managed to separate the spiritual energy from the mix, while compressing the complementary physical energy, the clone can hold it for some time. Then just release it all at once. This is why the user must never try to do it on his real body. Naruto gulped as he imagined himself blown up, on the ground with his insides fried. He shuddered at the image. He hastily promised himself to never try the technique in his body. Naruto still remembers how he got this scroll. Flashback. What are you doing in my house at this hour? The Hokage asked. Naruto started sweating at being caught. He decided to use his own super awesome jutsu to get away. Oiroke no jutsu, Naruto shouted as he transformed in a busty, naked female with smoke covering her private parts. The Hokage, surprised by this sudden move and being a pervert, erupted in fountain of a nosebleed and was propelled to the back of the room, knocked unconscious. Naruto couldn't believe it, he had defeated the Hokage. Now, he had to complete his mission and begin searching for Scroll of Seals. He found it and escaped into the forest surrounding the village. Flashback end. This scroll contains the secrets of the Kages of the greatest shinobi nation ever, so Naruto thought to write his jutsu too because he was going to surpass them all. Naruto didn't even bother looking at the section that contained the forbidden seals for a moment, not knowing the tiniest bit about sealing. Something he will regrets later, because what he finds there will be something that will change everything for him and the name he has. Chapter 2, this year's new genin teams. And Vicious Nightfall. Konoha. Today was the day. Today was March 5th, the day that this year's class would finally end their time in the academy and become full-fledged ninja of the village. The graduation exams had been held just 2 days ago, with all but one student graduating. This student was Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto was the village prankster and the class clown. He was also considered the dead last of the class, and everyone thought of him and his proclaiming that he would become Hokage as a complete and utter joke. No matter how much Naruto tried, he couldn't manage to succeed for some reason. Even the simplest jutsu, such as the clone jutsu, were too much for Naruto, and as such, Irika was reluctantly forced to fail Naruto. Irika didn't want to fail the blonde child that he had become emotionally attached to, but seeing as the child had failed to perform even the simplest jutsu, was forced to decide that Naruto was not quite ready to be a ninja. Frankly, Irika was beginning to doubt that Naruto would ever be able to graduate. And then that event happened. Naruto saved his life and run away. Little did Naruto know that Lady Luck was apparently smiling on him as the disappearance of the most powerful scroll in Fire Country and perhaps the world was pushed to the side from the information Ibiki coerced out of the former Konoha ninja, Mizuki. War was on the minds of the council, and even the peace-loving Sandaime Hokage could not deny that the newly formed Oto village had stepped over the line in their quest for power. For such a young nation to take such a risk against them was disconcerting, to say the least. Sarutobi was just happy they could crush this potential threat before it became a formidable enemy. Assuming it already wasn't. Konoha was calling for blood. And the village hidden in the leaves did not become the most powerful of all 5 of the great shinobi nations by allowing others to try and steal their secrets without coming down like the fist of an angry god on the miscreants that had the gall to challenge them. War was on the horizon, and the venerable Hokage doubted anything could stop it from coming short of another Bijou attack. Flashback. I failed him, Irika-kun. A boy his age, forced to flee for fear of his life, from my villagers. I have failed him. The Hokage spoke, his voice gravelly. We all have, Hokage-sama. Irika cut in, he too on the verge of tears. I thought that treating him to ramen once in a while was enough. I should have paid more attention to his loneliness. I knew that the others hated him. Maybe if I had dash. Don't blame yourself, Irika-kun. You did not have any control of the situation, but I, as Hokage, have no excuse. I could have overruled the council any time I wanted, but I let my compassion for the villagers blind me to the injustices faced by Naruto. It is me who failed to protect him. Sarutobi said as he gazed to the Hokage monument. Then he said more to himself than to anyone else. I wonder if you will forgive me, Yondaime. He sighed. Flashback end. On the evening of March 3rd, Naruto stole the forbidden scroll of sealing as an attempt to earn some extra credit and pass the exam. It was on this night that Iruka and Naruto did battle with the traitorous Mizuki, one of the now former academy teacher. It was also on this night that Naruto finally learned why his life had practically been a living hell. He was the Kyuubi no Kitsune, or rather the Kyuubi was sealed inside him. Just under 12 years ago, the Kyuubi no Kitsune attacked the village, resulting in many deaths and a great deal of destruction. Seeing no other way to defeat the beast, the Yondaime Hokage, the greatest shinobi of his time, sealed away the great beast into a newborn infant. This infant was Uzumaki Naruto. Now, Naruto wasn't the Kyuubi nor was he some manifestation of the Kyuubi. The Yondaime had made one last wish that Naruto be regarded as a hero of the village for keeping the Kyuubi at bay. Unfortunately, the Yondaime's dying wish was ignored and the village began to torment the child. This upset the Sandaime Hokage, who had returned to his former position after the death of his successor, and many laws were enacted. The most notable was to forbid the village from even mentioning the Kyuubi. Unfortunately, this resulted in the village shunning Naruto, leaving him to contemplate why the village hated him. What was worse was that the child was an orphan, not knowing the love that only a parent could give him. Whenever he would ask the Sandaime about his parents, the Hokage would just bypass the answer to the question by saying they were great people. This and the shroud of secrets surrounding Naruto only served to further the young child's misery. Alright class, I would like to congratulate you all for becoming ninja, the instructor announced. I have your team assignments right here. After I call out your teams, you will be dismissed for the morning and report back here this afternoon to meet your new senseis, said Iruka. With that, Iruka began announcing the team assignments. Team 7 will be Haruno Sakura, Sai, and Uchiha Sasuke. Team 8 will be Hyuga Hinata, Inuzuka Kiba, and Aburame Shino. Team 10 will be Yamanaka Ino, Nara Shikamaru, and Akimichi Chuji. The class was dismissed. Hinata was also sad because Naruto didn't pass. Flashback. Naruto was really amazing. He has been pulling a lot of pranks on the village, and nobody else seems to notice until he's finishing up or is finished, even though he wears bright orange. In fact, he painted the Hokage monument in broad daylight with bright colors while wearing his bright orange outfit, and nobody else noticed until he was finishing up. Iruka-sensei brought him back to class after he led a group of umbu on a wild goose chase through the village, which should make people suspicious of why he's the dead last of the class. I personally think he's been sabotaged to the point where he stopped trying in class by the time we got to Iruka-sensei's class. After being brought in, Naruto used his new jutsu, the Oroku no Jutsu. I think I might be the only person in the class who realizes the power of the technique, which is quite dangerous since most adult male ninjas seem to be perverts. Naruto failed the graduation exam again. I don't understand why the test is always the clone jutsu. I mean, I know Niji's teammate Lee can't even use ninjutsu and genjutsu, yet he managed to pass. I wanted to go comfort Naruto, but before I could get the courage to approach him, Mizuki-sensei came up to him to talk with him. Naruto seemed excited about what Mizuki-sensei said to him. Could it possibly be another chance to pass? Flashback end. I haven't seen Naruto since that day. I wanted to make courage to go and ask Iruka-sensei what happened to him after we meet our teams in Sensei. The copy ninja, Hatake Kakashi, stared down at the newest entry in Konoha's bingo book in disbelief. Uzumaki Naruto. A ranked missing nin. History. Unkon never graduated Konoha Ninja Academy. Abilities. Can use the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Reward. 50,000 Ryo. Is only to be pursued by Konoha. Pursuit by non-Konoha ninja is to be considered an act of war on the village. Kakashi wasn't surprised by the lack of information. One did not go putting S-class secrets in the bingo book and didn't advertise that the forbidden scroll was in the hands of an academy student. He just hoped his sensei's legacy would be alright. You all fail. Kakashi said. You have no hope of becoming ninja. Quit now and save Konoha and yourselves the trouble. What? Sakura screamed. No way, Sasuke-kun would never forgive her. I'll give you one more chance to get the bells from me. passing the 2 bento boxes to Sai and Sasuke. He finished, don't give any to Sakura or you'll automatically fail. With that, the copy ninja disappeared in a swirl of leaves, leaving the genin hopefuls to eat by themselves. Pushing the lunchbox to Sakura, Sasuke said, here, eat, we'll all need our strength if we want any chance to get those bells. Sakura was shocked. What, you heard Kakashi-sensei? He said. She never got to finish as Sai interrupted. He's long gone, Sasuke is right. Hesitantly, Sakura started eating. In a swirl of leaves, an enraged Kakashi appeared and screamed, you all, before pausing and finishing in a much quieter, sweeter voice pass. All 3 genin were dumbfounded. What, but he had said. Their thoughts were interrupted by Kakashi starting to speak. Those that abandon their mission are trash, those that abandon their comrades are worse than trash. Gesturing towards the memorial stone, he continued, that's the memorial for Konoha's greatest heroes. The brave ninja who died in the line of duty. All of my best friends' names are on that stone, he finished quietly. Meet here at 8 tomorrow for our first mission, and with that he was gone in a swirl of leaves, leaving the genin to their own devices. So, Sasuke-kun, would you like to go on a date with me? Sakura asked the aloof Uchiha. No, he replied before turning and walking away. Why would he go out with you when that Yamanaka girl is so much better looking? Sai asked the pink-haired Kunoichi. Screaming, she launched herself at the ink user, leaving Sasuke to look on from a distance, thinking, oh well, it could be worse, I could have the dobe on my team. Later in that day, Hinata approaches Irika-sensei and want to ask him something. Irika was preparing to become a hunter nin and go in search for Naruto after he finished the work this day, but he was little surprised to see Hinata there. He also noticed her worry and sits down to talk with her. How can I help you, Hinata? I wanted to ask what happened with Naruto. I have not seen him since he failed the graduation exam. I wanted to go comfort Naruto, but before I could, Mizuki-sensei came up to him to talk with him. Naruto seemed excited about what Mizuki-sensei said to him. And I wanted to know if he was okay, and where he is, and if he will return and see him again, said Hinata with worry in her voice. Irika is a little surprised because Hinata wanted to know what happened with Naruto. Naruto's gone through a lot of trouble in life and events. Naruto was tricked by Mizuki to steal a forbidden scroll for graduation exams. He even saved my life in that night by mastering a jutsu from the scroll, but before I had a chance to talk to him he had run away with the scroll, said Irika, knowing he couldn't use the same words Naruto had told him before the clone dispelled. Naruto would never betray the village like that, said Hinata, still in shock to what she heard now. I can only guess that Naruto left the village to try and escape the stress. But I'm worried that Naruto got himself into a lot more trouble than ever before now. A lot of people, even if they will call Naruto a traitor, that's not really true. For example, he may have defaced the Hokage monument in the past, but more than anything Naruto wants to add his own face to that monument, said Irika with pride. Irika puts a hand on Hinata's shoulder. Don't worry, I will make sure to bring Naruto back and safe. Hinata smiles. Thank you, I'm not worry anymore, I know nothing bad could happen to him. Irika is a little shocked by this. After all, Hinata is usually so shy. Irika smiles and gives a slight smile as he started to figure something out. Naruto means a lot more than just a classmate, doesn't he? Hinata's face turns beep red and it takes her a bit before she can reply. Naruto works so hard despite how everyone treats him, and I couldn't help but to look up to him. And now that he's gone, I feel like it was my fault too, because I never work up the courage to confront Naruto and talk with him and tell him he is my inspiration. Well, what do you think Naruto would have done in this situation? Asked Irika. Naruto-kun would not give up. That why I'm going to become strong like him so I can face him when he returns to the village and support him, so he'll be happy to stay in the village, said Hinata with determination in her voice. Now I have even more motivation to make sure Naruto gets back safe, said Irika. Even if he wanted to talk with Hinata more about Naruto, he had to get ready to leave. The night. Sarutobi returned to the present as he reached his office in the Hokage Tower. His ANBU standing guard at the doors saluted him. He nodded to them as he walked inside. He went and sat behind his desk and sighed. He disliked days like these when he felt his age. He may be the Hokage, but he was also a weary old man. Ever since he had returned to office after Minato's death a decade ago, he had started to get tired easily. After the village had stabilized, a year later, Sarutobi had tried to find a replacement. He had sent messages to both his students and both had turned him down. He knew that Danzo would have jumped at the opportunity, but Sarutobi also knew that he wasn't an option. Narashikaku had said that he wasn't powerful enough and didn't portray the image of a fearsome leader and turned down the Hokage politely. Even Hiruzen had to agree. Even if Minato had been easygoing, he had been feared like none other in the ninja world, keeping future enemies in check. His only option was to remain in office as long as possible, until a worthy successor emerged. Hatake Kakashi was one to look out for, but he wasn't ready yet. Uchiha Itachi had also caught Hiruzen's eye. The will of fire burned bright in the young man, but the sacrifice Itachi had made had removed him from the equation. Before leaving, the young Uchiha had promised to protect the village from the outside. Hiruzen sighed. If not for that incident, Itachi would have been ready to take up the mantle of the Hokage as the sixth, by the time one of his replacements stepped down, preferably Jiraiya. He had long since given up on Tsunade. Also, Itachi being primed for Hokage would have pacified the Uchiha. Only if that could have happened, I could have taken better care of Naruto. Letting his thoughts wander to the blonde demon container, he couldn't help but bristle with fear at how much danger he put himself in by carrying and learning the techniques of the scroll. If he let that scroll fall into any hands but his own, he would have to kill him himself. And the old Hokage didn't know if he could bring himself to do it. When he grew up just enough to be able to live on his own, I bring him some money each month and I remembered him to speed it wisely. When the Konoha Council found out that Minato had sealed Kyuubi into Naruto, they ultimately refused to help the boy. Naruto was in my mansion in a secret child's room with a nanny, who was under the Umbu protection. Danzo destroyed Naruto's childhood when he started to spread gossip around the village about Kyuubi sealed inside Naruto's body. When Naruto turned 5, he started living in the apartment under the Umbu's supervision, and Kakashi was one of them. The apartment belonged to Minato. I cleared all Minato's evidence before Naruto moved there. This was Minato's apartment before he started living together with Kushina. I took care of it before Naruto was ready to move there. Naruto also has a godfather, Jiraiya. He rarely come to the village and never visited Naruto. As one of the legendary Sanins, he fought a lot and was busy trying to figure out the location of Orochimaru and researching Akatsuki that he couldn't look after Naruto. I sent him a message about what happened and now he's looking for Naruto. Irika wanted to go after Naruto too, but he was still hurt in that night, so I told him to wait until the graduation exams before he become a hunter nin and go after Naruto. They are the only people I can trust will not hurt Naruto and can convince him to come back. I couldn't raise him properly since attention to the child despised by the entire village would have raised questions by the village council. I was supposed to treat everyone fairly, and Naruto was no exception. I had no choice but to help Naruto while staying in the shadow because these bitter old man and Danzo watched every move and had a very negative attitude towards Naruto. Naruto constantly endured bullying, and nobody could approach him and help him when he needed the most. It has gone too far. When he returns, I will tell him everything about his parents and fix everything I can. I would damn myself to the depths of hell before I allowed a council of bitter fools make me break my promise to the Yondaime. I couldn't blame Naruto for his decision, and I'm just glad that he had the scroll. The world was a hard place for an academy student, and this way he could learn his father's techniques. I would damn myself to the depths of hell before I allowed the village hero's only son be killed because a council of bitter fools couldn't see past the demon fox. Because of them, I still had to put Naruto on bingo book. Of course, they didn't go putting S-class secrets in the bingo book and didn't advertise that the forbidden scroll was in the hands of an academy student. They couldn't afford to put him in the international bingo book, and he didn't have the manpower necessary to launch a full-scale search over the elemental nations. At least that's what he told himself. If it were anyone else making the decision, the manpower might suddenly be available. Then again, if it were someone else, they might not be telling the council they had 5 pairs of hunter nins constantly searching for him, while in reality there was only Irika and Jiraiya. Another idea came to Hiruzen. He didn't know if he could bring her back, and what will she do after she finds out what happened? Even without the forbidden scroll, Hiruzen knew all the jutsu in Konoha, and he was ready to use the jutsu if it was needed. Chapter 3, Ashes to Life, Dust to Hope, the Red-Hot-Blooded Habanero. Konoha. Sarutobi entered a room into the Senju compound. The room was full with all the scrolls Mito Uzumaki brought to Konoha with her, as well as the ones she penned in Konoha. It took him a few days to prepare everything in secret, but he knew it was worth it. I really hope that my theory will work. Hiruzen thought as he slammed Naruto's blood on the seal and made a single hand sign. He felt his chakra draining slowly as seal spread over the ground, surrounding the completely unconscious prisoner he took from Konoha's prison last night. His theory was that the parents are always inside their children. Be it DNA, blood, or chakra, and because Naruto was alive, this will result in the technique he used Kuchiyose, Edo Tensei, to bring to life one of his parents, but he already knew that Minato's soul was in Shinigami's stomach. Prisoner's body was covered by something that slightly resembled ashes and dust rose, clinging to his body, leaving a different figure laying in the center of the seals. Kushina Uzumaki blinked. The last thing she remembered was dying on Kyuubi's claw, with the knowledge that her son was safe, and the beast that she had in the end failed to keep imprisoned would again be locked away where it couldn't hurt anyone. So she was more than surprised to find herself on a room full with scrolls. For a second she thought she was in heaven, before faint echoes of what could be memories of sorts came to her and told her that it wasn't the case, and that the afterlife was different. It wasn't more than an odd hunch, but she was fairly sure that she was on the mark. She usually was. Sarutobi sighed as he looked at the picture before him. Kushina, who had been buried 12 years ago, was currently here. This should be fun, thought Kushina. It's been a while, Sarutobi. Who did you sacrifice to call me? Kushina asked. She had heard of the Edo Tensei, though she never saw it. A prisoner who was sentenced to prison and was to be executed, said Hiruzen. He wanted to use Mizuki for this, but they still needed him and the information he had for the coming war. Then Hiruzen nodded. Indeed, Kushina. 12 years. I never would have thought I'd see you again. That brings me to the second question. Where and how is my son? Kushina asked. She wanted to hug her son. She had wanted to do that since she became pregnant, and had never had enough opportunities to do so. Kushina-san. Hiruzen sighed, knowing what he was about to say would cause Kushina a great deal of guilt and turmoil. After you died, I decided it was best that Naruto's heritage be kept a secret, for many reasons. Without your protection, he was an easy target for your and Minato's old enemies looking for revenge, and thus goes by the surname of Uzumaki. I promised myself that I would tell him the truth when he was older, but right now, he has absolutely no idea who his parents are. Kushina frowned. I see your point. But now I'm back, and I'll protect him. Yes, but the worst part, however, is that initially, most of the villagers saw Naruto as something of a shell for the Kyuubi itself, and took their resentment and bitterness out on the boy. Kushina's shock and horrified expressions told Hiruzen that it would be best to continue this part to the end as quickly as possible. Naruto suffered from their hatred, I cannot deny that, though I was able to protect him from most physical harm, the emotional and psychological damage is nonetheless significant. Taking note of the gritted teeth of the redhead, he kept going. Still, Naruto has grown into a good-natured boy, who is surprisingly able to deal with emotional and psychological problems despite his young age. I have no doubt that a short time with you would help him in more ways than you could imagine. Trying to process what the Hiruzen was telling her was difficult in many ways for Kushina. Her baby had been seen as the monster he kept imprisoned, the worst fate for a Jinchuriki. As the former Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi herself, she could almost understand how terrible that would be. But what he said last gave her some hope that perhaps he withstood that adversity well enough for her to help her son in time. It is a village law that no one who knows about Naruto's status as a Jinchuriki is allowed to tell someone who does not. Naruto did not know about it himself until a few days ago. At the academy, no matter how much Naruto tried, he couldn't manage to succeed for some reason. Even the simplest jutsu, such as the clone jutsu, were too much for Naruto, and as such, Iruka was reluctantly forced to fail Naruto. Iruka didn't want to fail Naruto that he had become emotionally attached to, but seeing as the child had failed to perform even the simplest jutsu, was forced to decide that Naruto was not quite ready to be a ninja. Kushina stared at him, completely baffled. You don't know? Her eyes wandered to Sarutobi, and now anger was burning in them. He's an Uzumaki. Only an Uzumaki can hold Kyuubi, anyone else would die in the attempt to become a Jinchuriki of Kyuubi. Our special and massive chakra and longevity is what allows us to contain the creature. No other clan possesses these attributes but the Uzumaki. In other words, Kyuubi will return with no one having the ability to seal him away again. Even if a person can contain some of Kyuubi's chakra, he or she, without having Uzumaki blood by natural descent, can never contain the creature in its entirety, and don't even make me tell you how much clones could do Naruto now with Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Kushina explained. I'm sure you're aware that we Uzumaki have very special chakra and longevity, along with the fact seals come as natural and easy to us as breathing fire comes to the Uchiha, and considering who his father was, how can he be anything but a prodigy? In fact, many of the seals and some of the Jutsu Konoha ninja use originated from the Uzumaki clan. However, the Shodai and Nidaime had to downgrade Kage Bunshin no Jutsu to Bunshin no Jutsu because of its ability to kill the user. Ironically, performing Bunshin no Jutsu was impossible for the Uzumaki clan because of their massive chakra reserves. And many of the other seals created by the Uzumaki clan had to be downgraded because of their aggressive effects on the user's lack of chakra reserves, said Kushina with full anger in her eyes. Naruto, even if it's not a prodigy, he works hard, and in fact I've seen how many clones he can do with Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. On the evening of March 3, Naruto was tricked by an instructor at the academy after failing the graduation exams to steal the forbidden scroll of sealing as an attempt to earn some extra credit and pass the exam. It was on this night that Iruka and Naruto did battle with the traitorous Mizuki, one of the now former academy teacher. It was also on this night that Naruto finally learned he was Jinchuriki of Kyuubi no Kitsune. Naruto learned Kage Bunshin no Jutsu from the scroll and made many clones and defeated Mizuki by the time me and my ANBU arrived, said Hiruzen while Kushina swelled with pride and eyes began to water at the thought of her son, the baby she had not been able to see grow up, but now she could be there. Now. Hiruzen continued, knowing that Kushina would not like what she would hear next in the chaos Naruto's clones provided. No one noticed original Naruto slipping off out of the fours, so to put it shortly, this boy was fooled into stealing the scroll, and I failed him, Kushina. A boy his age, forced to flee for fear of his life, from my villagers. I have failed him. The Hokage spoke, his voice gravelly. But you found him, right? Naruto is safe now, no? Kushina asked, hoping this is a bad joke. Hiruzen continued to tell Kushina about Naruto's life and who he sent after him. He also explained everything he had managed to do so far since Naruto disappeared and what happened in the village in these years. And it took a lot for him to convince Kushina to not go and kill the elders herself for what they did to Naruto and Itachi. Kushina never once blamed Kakashi for not taking care of Naruto throughout his childhood. Tsukumo's suicide had severely affected Kakashi, but it wasn't until Obito's death that the emotional trauma began to show. He was a mess, he didn't know what he was doing with his life, and for a child in a war, that was a very dangerous thing. Rin became his living emotional crutch, and his promise to Obito to protect her was what kept him going. When she died, Minato had to keep a close eye on his student, and it was a good thing, too. Kakashi had nearly followed in his father's footsteps. Minato had been able to convince his student that he could always find a purpose in preventing anyone from experiencing his own emotional pain, and Kakashi clung to that idea as if his life depended on it. So Kushina never blamed Kakashi for not being a caretaker for her son. Kakashi was a broken man nonetheless. Being a fatherly figure to an orphan who was scorned by the village would have been beyond his emotional capacity. And Makoto's second son Sasuke? Asked Kushina. Now another sigh escaped Sarutobi's lips. While Itachi spared his life, he did not leave him unharmed. A genjutsu of unknown origin was used on him, and his mind has suffered from it. He is still smart, but cold. All he cares about is the glory of the Uchiha clan, and killing his brother. I see. Things have not been so good in these years, said Kushina. Kushina went on to explain to Hiruzen about the masked man who attacked Konoha 11 years ago, and if Naruto's seal breaks, Minato will be there to stop and meet with Naruto and talk with him. And that if that happened it would a good chance to find Naruto, something they hoped wouldn't be necessary. Even if Kushina went looking for him right now, she knew she wouldn't have such a good chance. Sarutobi felt a pang of worry. Kushina, what are you planning? Kushina shrugged. I'm not sure myself, but something changed after I was brought back. Even though I can't remember anything, I was in the afterlife, and this experience seems to have done something to me. I think any memory I have from there, while I'm here I can't remember them. Then she came to another topic. The jutsu isn't complete yet, is it? Her body was cold and felt unresponsive, like she was wearing a heavy armor in cold winter. No, but that's why I prepared this place, said Hiruzen, showing Kushina the room with all the scrolls. A few days and nights later, Kushina gently took the scroll, unrolled it, and took a look at the seal that completed the jutsu, and was placed into her summoned body. While the first part of the jutsu was pretty complex, the second version even more so. The final part was almost ridiculously easy for someone of Kushina's caliber with seals. Looks like simple works best for the last part. Let's see, if I change this, and add this, and this as an improvement for the physical body, then, voila! She held a new tag up, there. With this one, I will have my free will and be in control of my body. Kushina sighed. A healthy rosy color spread over her body, the cracks vanishing, as her hair, which had seemed a little dull before, gained a new shine. The only indication that something was off were Kushina's eyes. While a new gleam of life had entered them once more, the scara had turned black. Kushina smiled. Ah, much better. Sarutobi sighed deeply. Since we reached this point, what are you planning now, Kushina? Kushina looked up. It was boring to work here alone all these nights and days. You think we can bring back Makoto too and maybe some more friends? And after Naruto is home to have a party? Maybe I can bring Minato out of Shinigami's stomach until Jiraiya finds Naruto. I should be surprised, I really should be. But somehow, I'm not, thought Hiruzen. Kushina. You should really know better. The Edo Tensei is not some toy that you can use to call back everyone you want to have a chat with. What is wrong in your head that you get such an idea? Kushina, I expected you to be more responsible. You're not a child anymore, stop acting like one. Don't make me regret my decision more than I already do. Kushina looked to the ground, ashamed. She had no idea how, but the old man had this gig where he'd really make you feel bad without really doing anything. It was infuriating. And I don't think I can bring Makoto back because her body was burned like all the other Yukika. I could possibly get Sasuke's blood from the hospital the same way I got Naruto's, but you realize it would be a risk to bring Fugaku and I don't want to do that. And Makoto had been in the know of the Uchiha's plot, so her loyalties were questionable, to say the least. Sorry, won't happen again, said Kushina. The Sandame nodded. And what else have you managed to do these days? Kushina smiled. Well, for one thing, I improved the physical appearance, as is obvious. As far as free will goes, it is nearly absolute. The tags I made myself allows complete power over oneself. The only thing you may be able to do is summon me to your location, and maybe sense me when out of your line of sight. I considered altering the tag for later summons so that it prevents the summon to harm the summoner. Sarutobi nodded. That alteration may be a good idea. I forgot to ask you how exactly Naruto managed to steal that scroll in first place, asked Kushina. Hiruzen Sarutobi was scared by this question. He really didn't want to know how would Kushina react if he told her about Naruto's Oiroke no Jutsu. Chapter 4. The Shinobi Path for Those Who Dwell in the Darkness. Part 1. The funny thing about life, if you refuse an outcome you don't like, another door will open in time. No more excuses. I will be the greatest, just wait and see. Nothing that comes easy is worth having. All I want to be can be reality, thought Naruto as he molded chakra into his feet and took off at a run. There was only so much he could do while wandering between towns. Learning from his scroll was all well and good, but nothing made up for combat experience. Not to mention that his taijutsu was pitiful. To try and make up for this, Naruto constantly worked at his speed, hoping that if he was fast enough he could make room and destroy his opponents with his powerful jutsu. Naruto bought a map and found out he was somewhere in between Land of Waves and Land of Rivers. The weights he had on would need to be upped in the near future. Naruto started to wear a pair of ankle weights to use them for training, Naruto gaining weight wearing them to help him increase speed, but he didn't even feel them anymore after some days. The blonde knew he was a lot stronger and faster than before, but he had nothing to really apply it to. Sloppy Konoha Academy Taijutsu wasn't exactly awe-inspiring no matter how physically strong he was. His rudimentary academy technique didn't give much to help him create his own style, mainly because he had no idea what a good style consisted of. Settling for his powerful ninjutsu would have to do for now, but Naruto knew he needed to advance in all forms of combat if he ever wanted to become truly great. Naruto continued at a fast pace eastwards for the next days, stopping only to sleep and eat. There he is, it has to be him. What are the chances we'd find him while out on a mission? Imagine the reward. Naruto's eyes fluttered open to the sound of voices. What the hell? Naruto yelled. 25 feet away there were 4 Konoha shinobi, all with weapons in hand and self-satisfied smirks on their face. 50,000 Ryo for an academy student, can't say I've ever felt luckier. Naruto vaguely recognized the speaker as a jonin who came into academy a few times. Dropping into a low crouch, Naruto stared at the assembled ninja. Why are you attacking me? Naruto shouted, feigning ignorance. 50,000 Ryo, what are you talking about? Didn't you know? Uzumaki Naruto, a class nukenin, the same somewhat familiar jonin, replied. One of the others sneered and spoke up. You don't stand a chance, boy, the 4 of us, he said, gesturing at the 3 men to his right side. He is right, Naruto-kun, please come back peacefully, the smallest Chunin said, in a low, pleasant voice. He had expected this, but that didn't make actually seeing it any easier. Naruto thought about his predicament: a missing nin. A-class were to be killed on sight. There should be no option of coming back peacefully. Perhaps Hokage Jiji had something to do with this. There was also 2 options. He had advantage to run away longer than they could chase him, or fighting these men and winning. This was his chance to find out how good he became in these weeks. With his army of clones he had a chance to escape if the situation became too dangerous. Naruto made 4 clones while doing them, he said. Kagebunshin no Jutsu, who went to attack for Konoha ninja. You can make Kagebunshin no Jutsu, not bad for an academy student, but it won't be enough to beat us, the jonin said. He got no reply, and his partners apparently too focused on catching their meal ticket. When 4 Konoha shinobi were preparing to destroy each clone, each going for 1 clone which was coming to attack them on impact with a kunai the Konoha ninja used to dispel the clones, all 4 clone exploded. The explosion sent every Konoha shinobi flying, and they were slammed into trees with backbreaking force, leaving them unconscious. I lied, those weren't Kagebunshin no Jutsu when they were Bunshin Daibakua, said Naruto. He didn't think it would work, but he managed to fool them by making hand signs for Bunshin Daibakua and shouting Kagebunshin no Jutsu. Naruto stepped over to the fallen shinobi and stripped them of everything he deemed useful. The explosion of those clones has attracted someone who happens to be nearby. Flashback. It's all your fault, old man, Jiraiya said as he read the letter he received from the Hokage. You were always too hung up on listening to everyone, trying to take everyone's opinions into account. If you had taken a stand all those years ago, this would never have happened, thought Jiraiya. Jiraiya was angry. Naruto was his godson after all. Jiraiya continued to read. You know better than me that Naruto is in grave danger outside the village. There are many who would try to take advantage of him. I accept that mistakes were made regarding Naruto-kun. To let him remain in the outside world would be the greatest of them all. Jiraiya, as angry as he was, he knew the Sandaime was saying the truth. Naruto would not survive a long time alone. He may be captured and sold as a slave. Even worse was he may fall into ninja hands who might figure out what Naruto was, where they might either kill him or brainwash him into becoming a mindless Jinchuriki. Jiraiya was ready to track Naruto. Don't worry, old man. I'll find Naruto. Minato that thought Jiraiya as he began to prepare. Flashback end. It was then that he had widened to find any signs of Naruto. If he was not in Land of Fire, he was ready to start to search to other countries. Well, what do we have here? Naruto started as he heard it. He hadn't sensed anybody. He rolled over immediately and saw a very large man, with blue skin and a similarly large wrap thingy on his shoulders. Naruto jumped up into a stance as he assessed this new threat when the man started speaking to the air as if there was an audience. Here I was, trying to pee peacefully, when suddenly I heard an explosion. I come to take a look and it's a shrimp. What are the odds of that? The blue-skinned man grinned. Then he noticed the shinobis that were on the ground. Don't tell me that a shrimp like you managed to do that all this. The description of his favorite piece of clothing offended Naruto. At least I carry my outfit with style, and if you don't want to end up like them, said Naruto pointing to Konoha shinobi. Then be careful what you say. The shark man laughed. Tell you what, kid. The man said, if you can move me from this spot, I'll recognize you as a shinobi. I will not even use my sword either, deal? He smirked. Deal. Shuriken Kage Bunshin Jutsu. Naruto called out as those few shuriken he throws turned into nearly 100. As good as he was, the shark man had no choice but to move to avoid the rain of shuriken, not believing that this boy was able to use a jutsu like this. Well, I got to give it to you, brat. You are a decent shinobi, even if you wear orange. What does a kid like you doing here alone? I left my village. Everyone treated me differently for something that wasn't my fault that I was born that way. They were holding me back, but here I can reach my true potential. So I chose to leave and become strong so I could change all this, said Naruto with a sad face. The man looked at Naruto as if he had seen himself. Like him, his clan was lowly due to racism and not being useful to his village. He likes to be alone. He always had that personality that was rejected by others due to racism of being low cost since childhood. His village had the cruelest ninja system in existence. He's from the Hoshigaki clan, which is specialized in water-based jutsu, and this clan gives them the ability to merge with the Samahata sword, one sword of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Naruto decided to change topics, yet curious to know where the man came from. Your village, what is it called? Kirigakure, said the man. Naruto looked at Itaiate, the symbol of the village shown on the metal protector, albeit with a line drawn through it, telling that the man was no longer loyal to the village. You left the village too. Do you miss it? The man snorted at the question. Not really. How come? Asked Naruto. 'Cause like you, I don't enjoy living in a world of lies, the man said, looking at the boy with a grin. Naruto stared at the man with confusion. He then imagined the man being lied to a lot. Were people mean to you? The man blinked at the question. Nah, he said as he recalled certain memories of his past. Ones that always seemed to have him isolated from others during missions. We just couldn't really talk to one another. He noticed the boy was lost at his answer. When you're different from everyone, they tend to make you an outcast. And, well, I was too different from them. So people in your village didn't like talking to you? Asked Naruto. I guess not, said the man. Well, I like talking to you, said Naruto. The man shifted his weight slightly, feeling uncomfortable with the boy's comment. He really didn't know what to do or say. This boy had a very similar past to him. Let me tell you an interesting bit of trivia, one that should make you see how this world works and how people work. The man said, standing tall before the boy. Sharks start out as eggs but incubate and hatch in the womb. Naruto blinked. Sometimes the number of pups is less than the number of eggs that were fertilized. Do you know why? Naruto's nose scrunched up as he tried to think of an answer. Cannibalism. The man's eyes grew dark with delight, making the boy take a step back. The pups start eating each other within the mother's womb the moment they hatch. Naruto gulped at the mental image before the man continued. They start killing their siblings the moment they enter the world, viewing everything they see as nothing more than prey. You and me may be same right now, but. The man grinned at the boy, showing those sharp teeth of his. Be careful of everyone, including me. Naruto frowned at the warning, but he thought there was something off in the man's words. But. The boy mumbled, catching the man's attention. We aren't fish. Naruto pointed out. He thought it was weird how the man was trying to compare them to sharks. Maybe the man thought he was a shark based off his looks? Either way, the boy couldn't see themselves as any kind of fish. Kisame observed the blonde silently, deep in thought. The boy's comment was so naive, and yet, it reminded him of his partner's words. A new figure appeared, also wearing the similarly designed cloak. Kisame. The newcomer said softly to the shark man. You said you were going to relieve yourself. Why is it that I find you playing with a boy? Kisame turned to the newcomer. Ah, Itachi-san. I really was peeing when this orange brat caught my eye. I just came to investigate. The brat and me had a little chat. This boy is very similar to the two of us. Itachi-san turned to look at the blonde, his eyes narrowed. What are you doing out of the village, Uzumaki-kun? Naruto was shocked at the mention of his name. Naruto stiffened and entered defensive stances while Kisame turned to his partner in surprise. You know this brat? He asked. Naruto glanced at the newcomer's Hitayate. His eyes widened as the symbol of the leaf village shone on the metal protector, albeit with the same line drawn through it, telling Itachi-san was no longer loyal to Konoha. Who is this brat, Itachi-san? Kisame asked, curious. For Itachi to know this brat's name, he couldn't be a drifter. His name is Uzumaki Naruto. The last I saw him was in the leaf village, before I left. Itachi said, without any expressions. Naruto had a confused look on his face, his eyes almost slits as he frowned, trying to remember this man. Who are you? Asked Naruto. Itachi's expression did not change as he stared at the boy. You do seem familiar, but I can't place you. Naruto continued, his face still a picture of confusion. This man here is Uchiha Itachi-san. Kisame clapped Itachi's back with a loud report. Very slowly, Itachi turned to face his partner. Sorry. Kisame said, not sounding sorry at all. Itachi turned to face Naruto again. You didn't answer my question, Uzumaki-kun. There was a short silence. It was broken by Naruto pounding his fist into his hand, his eyes wide. Now I remember, I saw you in the village. A small gust of wind flew by them as all stayed silent. Kisame face-palmed, Itachi gave Naruto an odd look. No shit, brat. Kisame snapped. He just said he saw you in the leaf village. It means you would have seen him at some point too. So what? Naruto defended himself. I never said he was my friend or anything. I just Naruto stopped as he looked at Itachi again. That's right, he said, you look like Sasuke team. He pointed his finger at Itachi accusingly. Kisame's eyebrows went up. If he had learned anything since he was a partner with Yukika, it was that any mention of his dead clan or still alive brother only ended up him going all moody and emo. True to his prediction, Itachi's mood dipped. On the outside, there was no change in expression. It were many minute things that Kisame had picked up that let him read Itachi sometimes. It seemed that Naruto could also. He lowered his finger as his expression changed to worry. I'm sorry. Itachi said nothing, but in a swirl of wind, he was gone. Did I say something wrong? Naruto asked Kisame. Kisame shook his head. It's a sore topic, brat. That's right, you wouldn't know me, would you? Kisame heaved the sword back onto his shoulder. I am Hoshigaki Kisame, wielder of the great sword Samahata. Naruto stared at the colossus weapon, it was double his size. He was curious as to why the sword was all bandaged up, and he could swear he had heard hisses coming from underneath the fabric before. He got close to the sword, reaching to touch it. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Kisame warned. Why? Asked Naruto. Unless you want Samahata's scales to cut your hand open, said Kisame. Samahata, he slowly repeated before putting the pieces together. Your sword has a name. And it can hear you too, Kisame patted the sword, who made a strange hissing sound. Kisame found a nice, flat rock and sat down on it. Naruto followed his example and found places to sit as well. It seems you aren't as pouty as before, said Kisame. Naruto looked at him with a smile on his face. That's 'cause I realized something. What? Asked Kisame. You're just like me, said Naruto. Kisame raised an eyebrow, never expecting such comment from the child. We are different from everyone else, Naruto said, straightening up. We both want to create a better world. That's why you left your village, right? 'Cause you don't like lies? Kisame said nothing. I'm happy to know I'm not the only one who knows what loneliness is and that we can help each other, Naruto admitted. You really believe that makes us the same? Kisame questioned. And 'cause we're alone in this world, said Naruto, then looked with his bright blue eyes to see Kisame simply staring at him in silence. Naruto hoped he didn't say anything wrong. Well, we were alone, but now we have each other, he said with a bright grin of his own. There was a foreign sensation deep in Kisame's frigid chest. At first it felt too hot that made him almost wince, but it quickly settled down to a more gentle warm tug. He looked away, his face unresponsive with any visible emotion. His eyes shifted to the forest as he heard rustling of leaves in forest. He stared for a little while, and before he had the chance to check out the source of the noise, the Naruto's stomach let out a huge rumble. He turned back to Naruto, who had a hand on his stomach, frowning deeply at his body for showing weakness. Let me show you how to catch fish, night is approaching, Kisame said. Naruto's eyes brightened up. He was surprised at how Kisame didn't mock his thoughts. Was Kisame's willingness to teach him how to fish an invitation to get closer to him? Naruto decided to follow, and taking his things, he really should buy a book about sealing and learn how to seal, because he already had the forbidden scroll still strapped to his back and a bag of books and food. Naruto was happily as he made a new friend. They both went, dismissing the earlier noise as nothing more but from a passing animal. His future will sure be interesting. Maybe I convince him to buy other clothes which are not so orange. I wonder how he will get along with Itachi-san, thought Kisame. Chapter 5. The Shinobi Path for Those Who Dwell in the Darkness. Part 2. Night. After Kisame and Naruto caught some fish, they went to make a campfire. Naruto looked at the fire and was not sure what would happen the next day. Kisame decided to break the silence and ask, "And, what are you thinking, boy?" I'm not sure where to go or what to do outside of training since I left my village, said Naruto. You could, come with us if you'd like, Kisame said, not looking at the boy. Naruto looked at the Kisame, eyes wide. Kisame turned to look at Naruto, his face serious. Well. Naruto straightened, his face a mixture of surprise and confusion. Why? Well, why not? I get pretty bored traveling alone, and I guess so do you, said Kisame. Wouldn't your partner mind? Naruto asked, thinking slowly. Kisame didn't answer immediately. I don't think so. He mused. Although he is a difficult man, he is also a bit of a lone wolf. But I could use the company. He yawned. As long as we do our missions, the organization doesn't need to know. But we'd probably leave you behind when we go for those missions, as they are really dangerous, so it doesn't really matter. There was no harm in accepting, although Naruto would have to think more first. I would not mind to come with you too, he said to Kisame. Kisame nodded and then grinned. You boy remind me a little of me and Itachi-san. He chuckled. Ha? Naruto raised his eyebrows. I find you interesting. Kisame scratched his jaw. It was impossible not to find the blonde interesting. He was made up of contradictions. Always smiling, yet in pain. Full of hate and love at the same time, thought Kisame. After seeing Naruto and mentioning his clan, Itachi was thinking he still didn't like the mention of his family. His reputation usually scared people to even avoid looking him in the eye, let alone talk. In the Akatsuki, members tended to leave each other's past alone. Orochimaru, before his sudden departure from the group, had never mentioned Konoha, let alone the Uchiha clan. Kisame had once mentioned them at the time they had been assigned as partners, when he had observed that both men were similar in the fact that they had killed their village members. After that, it seemed that Kisame had picked up on the fact that it was a touchy subject and had never brought it up again. To have the blonde mention his brother so casually unnerved him. Ever since he had left, he had wondered whether he had made the right choice. In the heat of the moment, he had told Sasuke to become an Avenger, in hopes that he would become strong. Itachi decided to return and see what will happen from now on. One of the reasons he liked Kisame was that the man understood that Itachi was used to being alone and silent and that he preferred it that way. Itachi saw that Kisame and Naruto made a campfire and decided to join them without saying a word. Naruto and Kisame saw that Itachi had joined them and he sat down beside them. "I am sorry," said Naruto. "You felt sad by what I said, next to the Uchiha." Naruto glanced at the man. Contrary to people's beliefs, he wasn't totally blind to his surroundings. Some things, like pain and loneliness, he picked up very easily. It may have been because he was so familiar with those emotions and the way people dealt with them that he could spot them when even seasoned ninja couldn't. When this man had arrived, Naruto hadn't really paid attention to him, being distracted by Kisame, but after he had mentioned Sasuke, he had noticed the minute flash of pain in the man's eyes. Naruto, he did not like to see others in the same pain he had to go through. The three of them sat in silence for a while. Itachi knew it wouldn't last. He had occasionally been on the boy's surveillance detail when he was in the ANBU Corp. He knew the boy lacked patience. Soon, he would start speaking again. A whole minute passed before the blonde's patience finally snapped. "Are you mad at me?" Naruto peered at Itachi's face. It was as expressionless as it had been when he had arrived. "No," Itachi assured him. He knew the blonde wouldn't keep quiet, so he switched the conversation to something that interested him. At least get some information while the blonde talked. "What are you doing out here, outside the village?" "I left my village. Everyone treated me differently for something that wasn't my fault. That I was born that way. They were holding me back, but here I can reach my true potential. So I chose to leave and become strong so I could change all this," said Naruto, thinking he'd better use the same answer he gave Kisame. But thinking that he would be asked in the end about the scroll he decided to add something. "At the academy I was in, I couldn't normally use Bunshin no Jutsu and I was not allowed to pass, after an instructor tricked me into stealing something, telling me it was a chance to pass the exams. The irony in this is that it was a scroll from which he told me that I could learn a jutsu and pass, and because I have more chakra it seems I can Kage Bunshin no Jutsu better than Bunshin no Jutsu. So shortly after I found out I was kind of fooled and that instructor tried to take my own life, I defeated him and I chose to leave and become a real shinobi without having anyone to stop me or hold me back from my potential, and since then I trained and became stronger. If you want I can show you some things I learned tomorrow," said Naruto, telling half the truth of what happened. Itachi listened to the boy's tale in silence. He wanted to point out that the Hokage wouldn't have let an incident like this occur ever again, but stopped himself, not only because Kisame was there, but he didn't want to explain his reasons to the boy, not before he knew Naruto better. Itachi's eyes went over the boy's blonde hair and blue eyes. Itachi wasn't considered the genius of his generation for nothing. He had put two and two together before he had left the village. If the boy's face had been less round and more lean, he could have passed off as a miniature clone of his father. Itachi also remembered a photograph of a red-haired woman and his mother on the day of his parents' wedding. She seemed familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen the woman. Pulling out more old pictures, he saw many more photographs of his mother with the unknown woman that had a resemblance to Uzumaki Naruto. On a little further prodding, he managed to learn from his father that the woman had been Uzumaki Kushina, Yandame's wife. It was then that Itachi remembered. The woman had been his mother's best friend. He had met her a number of times when he was younger. He didn't know her much, as his mother usually went to the Hokage's house rather than the redhead coming to their house. She had been pregnant during the Kyuubi's attack and had supposedly died before giving birth. After that, Itachi had not inquired further. If the Hokage had kept the boy's lineage a secret, he wasn't one to cause trouble. He was brought out of his meditations by Kisame's speech. "You haven't told me that part before, but I can't blame you. That Shuriken Kagebunshin Jutsu which you used in my opinion proves that you have potential." Itachi's eyebrows went up as he heard this. He knows Kagebunshin no Jutsu and Shuriken Kagebunshin Jutsu? He can use Kenjutsu? Shuriken Kagebunshin Jutsu, asked Itachi. "Yeah, I can execute Shuriken Kagebunshin Jutsu pretty well," Naruto replied. The boy could perform a powerful technique at such a young age already? If that didn't make the boy a genius, then what did it make him, thought Itachi. He started to grow curious of the boy's skills but decided to leave it for the next day. All three sat the fire near quietly and enjoyed a fair share of their catch. Naruto was the first to fall asleep after Itachi and Kisame as well, but not before Kisame used Mizubunshin no Jutsu and have a few water clones to protect the area. Morning. Naruto woke up and saw that the only one there was Itachi holding a rabbit. "Morning Uzumaki-kun," said Itachi. "Morning," said Naruto. Itachi noticed Naruto's gaze. "Dinner," he explained. Naruto looked away from the rabbit. "Come, make yourself useful." Itachi walked out with a few sticks and handed them to a confused Naruto. "Make a small fire." Naruto set them down in a bunch and started to make fire. In under a minute, Naruto backed away to reveal a bright flame roaring away. Itachi and Naruto sat in silence for a few minutes. Naruto while eating with Itachi. Naruto looked happy. "How can you just smile always?" Itachi asked. "Do you not feel anything? Is there no pain in your heart?" "I do, Databeo," Naruto said simply. "That is why I know that I must continue to be happy. If I don't, I will get lost in dark and I will not be able to become a real shinobi." Uzumaki-kun, Itachi began, "When you think to a real shinobi, what comes to mind? Do you see a hero? A silent killer?" He stared at Naruto. This was important. He had decided to give Naruto the means to make his own choices, but he had seen more than one shinobi turn in on themselves when they came across this question without help. Too many people couldn't separate the person from the job. Naruto looked down for a moment, deep in thought. Itachi waited patiently for his answer, and Naruto had sensed that this was something very important, so he tried not to answer wrong. Finally, he looked at Itachi. "I think of someone with freedom," he said. Itachi blinked, confused. "Someone with freedom? In what way?" he asked. Naruto took a deep breath. "A shinobi has power, but that isn't who they are. A shinobi is someone that can protect or destroy." Naruto's expression was an open book to Itachi. Naruto continued. "That power, it means you can choose your path." Itachi just stared. "Some people back in Konoha think this was my fate, to be in pain for the rest of my life." Naruto regarded the fire. "I have fought against it ever since that day. No matter what happens, no matter how many times they strike me down, I haven't truly lost until I don't stand up and smile again." Naruto's voice broke a little. "No one can take that away from me." He glanced at Itachi. "When you left the first time yesterday, I saw the pain in your eyes. I recognize it because I have seen those eyes many times in the mirror. I have felt a pain that I don't wish on even my enemies. The pain of loneliness is like a never-ending nightmare. But I choose to ignore the pain and find whatever happy thing I can. To me, that little happy moment is more important than the continuous stabbing in my heart." He glanced sideways at the Uchiha. "That is why I know that you too can stand up again, whatever your pain may be." Itachi listened to the boy's reasoning, but he needed more answers. "That is just talk, Uzumaki-kun. You can stand there and say this because you haven't truly been tested by fate yet. He seethed. You stand there defiant of the hand you have been dealt with. You rebel against whatever forces you believe are responsible for your plight. You stand there a victim. Itachi stopped to breathe as Naruto listened. You haven't been forced into a corner. A corner where no matter what you choose, you damn yourself to an eternity of misery. The lives of thousands of innocents haven't been thrust into your hand. You are right. I haven't ever experienced those. So I don't know what to say about it, said Naruto with a very serious expression on his face. But I am sure, if you tell me, I will show you the way where you can smile again and help you. Before that, there's something else I want to know, said Itachi looking seriously at the Naruto and asked, what are you planning to do for your future, Uzumaki-kun? I'm not sure. Since I left Konoha, I realized that all that time in Konoha I yearned for companionship, to be recognized and to be loved. I wanted to be looked at and appreciated. I wanted to be needed and feel worthy. That's why I did everything I did, said Naruto, remembering the things he was doing to be noticed, especially when I have nothing and no one. I wanted to be a Hokage, but not just to have these things I mentioned. When I read about them and their stories, I wanted to become like them for different reasons. Now I'm running away, but it's not that bad. I like to be seen as an ordinary person. I've been to a few places, and now you and Kisame have been my first friends since I left Konoha. And what do you think now about Konoha? You hate those there for what life you had, or what exactly you think? I know about Kyuubi, but that's something Kisame doesn't need to know. Now he went to find something to eat, so you have time to explain. Naruto suspected last night that Itachi might know about Kyuubi but said nothing. He was happy that someone from Konoha did not treat him like an outcast. I have no desire to take revenge. If I do, this will only be proving that I am the monster they all are afraid of. I'm not that type of person, and I will not let them turn me into one. Naruto, looking seriously at Itachi, then continued. I want to protect those who can't protect themselves. Yes, that's what I want to do for the future, I guess, said Naruto, happy that he realized what he could do in the future. Why would you want to do that? Asked Itachi, wanting to understand why Naruto would do this after all he went through. I'm not filled with anger or hatred. I don't know why, but I want to help those around me and make a better world, said Naruto. I guess Kisame was right then. You and me, we are not so different. Self-sacrifice, a nameless shinobi who protects peace from within its shadow, is the true mark of a real shinobi, said Itachi, remembering his old friend Shisui. But what about you? If you're a missing nin, then what did you do to end here? Said Naruto, still trying to understand why a shinobi like Itachi who wanted to do good became missing nin. Tell me, Itachi carried on slowly. Did you never wonder why my brother was suddenly alone, in spite of the fact that he was part of a huge clan? Naruto had wondered about that. He had even asked someone once, but had only been ignored. Itachi watched calmly. Naruto nodded. I did, but nobody told me. You heard right, Uzumaki-kun, it was I who killed them all, said Itachi. Eh? Naruto was shocked. This person had killed his entire clan? But why? If you wanted to protect peace from shadow, why would you do this? I can tell you the real reason, but if you can't keep it a secret, I will kill you. He bent his head towards the boy in a questioning gesture, activating his Sharingan and looking seriously at the Naruto. Do you understand? Naruto nodded, serious. I never go back on my word from now on. I already did it when I said I would become a Hokage, but this is something I will never go back on my word. I already said I want to help the world, and if I can't help you, then how can I help others, said Naruto. Very well, Naruto-kun. Itachi walked back. I guess if we are to know each other better, I should call you by your first name. The night the Kyuubi attacked Konoha, Itachi began, it not only changed your future, Naruto-kun, but also of the Uchiha clan. What I did was to save the clan from a civil war and war from other villages. Naruto raises an eyebrow but doesn't say a word. I killed the Uchiha clan because they had plans to revolt against the Leaf Village using Kyuubi from within you to do this, and that would have resulted in your death as well. And if they did that, civil war would have break out, and in that confusion the Leaf Village would be attacked by other villages due to the perceived weakness of Konoha already being there. The idea of war already contradicts my ideals, and this I could not allow it to. Happened, said Itachi. I understand and I think I have to thank you for saving me, but Itachi, what are your ideals? Asked Naruto. Itachi takes a deep breath. When I was young, from the day my father took me to the battlefield, I trained non-stop. It was a long year before the start of the academy. Why, you wonder? To get rid the world of fighting, I refused to accept my father's words that a ninja was someone who lived in the mystic of killing and existed for nothing else. There had to be more from life than that. The ninja arts and usage of chakra are more than only for fighting. I'm sure they are not only for war. There has to be more. I'm sure there is a greater purpose, a greater good. If you have greatest strength, you can step in between people fighting and you can stop them. If you are powerful ninja, more powerful than any of the ninja at war. If no ninja, however skills, stood a chance against you, then everyone would have to listen to you. Everyone will have to obey you, your commands. Itachi wanted to be that type of ninja. He believed he was more powerful and more capable than anyone else. At least until that night came and he was forced to make that decision and choose the future for Sasuke. Naruto nods, having aspirations that Itachi seemed unreasonable and unattainable to most people, but he understands. But how do you plan to do that non-violent world? By killing people? Itachi has a smile as he responds, the only way that true peace can be attained is through strength, Naruto-kun, strength so great and so overwhelming that no one in village, no amount of power can take on the likes of me. That way no one would dare oppose me and my ideals. When I'm alive, there would be no point to being any shinobi. Naruto isn't sure how to react, but he still has a question. Itachi, what happens when you die? That force would be gone and there would be no one else, someone else to take your place, and after you're gone I think more conflict and war will be created, said Naruto. But to Naruto's surprise, Itachi nods as he can't be more impressed by how depth Naruto thinking and calm-mindedness is he right now. You are right, Naruto-kun, when I die there would have to be someone who can fill the void of my absence, and I chose to tell you all this because I believe you and Sasuke can be those. Naruto was taken back after hearing this. Someone believed in him, that he could do something so great. I would like to, but I'm not strong enough, at least not yet, said Naruto. I have an offer for you. I'd like to train you. I want you to be able to defend yourself. If you want to spend your life out here, that is your choice. But I would be doing both Konoha and you a disservice if I allowed those who would do you harm to make the choice for you, said Itachi. He was intensely loyal to the village as a whole, even though he was disgusted with what so many of them had apparently done to Naruto. If he could help the village and Naruto to make choices about his own life, he felt it was his duty as a loyal Konoha shinobi to try. You won't make me go back? Naruto asked after a minute. Itachi could see his indecision, and quickly replied. No. It is your choice whether or not you want to live in Konoha or stay out here. Itachi said. Will you teach me to do the red eyes? He asked. Itachi chuckled slightly at that, shaking his head. The red eyes are the Sharingan, and you have to be born with them, something only my family can do. Only you can do this? Naruto asked. Itachi nodded. Even if you trained your entire life, you wouldn't be able to make them. They are a part of me, like your arms and legs. Some people are born with blonde hair, or black. You were born with a lot of chakra, I think because of your clan, just as I was born with the Sharingan. Naruto nodded at that. It made sense, after all. Some people were taller than others, or had different colored skin. Why not something like this? Yes, I guess. Wait, what? I have a clan? Naruto asked, almost forgetting anything he had discussed a few seconds ago. You see, the Uzumaki clan was a clan from the land of whirlpools. They were once heralded as the greatest Fuinjutsu masters in the world, said Itachi. Now Naruto was staring at him, and after Itachi said where, Naruto wanted to know more. What happened to them? They were so unanimously feared by every other village for their Fuinjutsu that a dozen enemy villages put aside their differences in order to invade and lay waste to the Uzumaki village, Uzushigakure. They wiped out the entire clan and any and every bit of information the Uzumaki had on their strongest seals, or at least, what they could find of it. According to legend, even though there were a dozen villages going after the Uzumaki, half of them were wiped out in the battle, and the other half suffered countless casualties. Including their small army of summoning animals, said Itachi. Does that mean I have a clan? Asked Naruto. Itachi replied, carefully choosing his words. Naruto-kun, Uzumaki clan died in the war. That means your clan doesn't exist anymore. He watched for a response and saw tears forming at the corner of the blonde's eyes. Itachi was surprised when Naruto gave him a genuine smile. "I'm not sad. I'm so happy that I can't stop crying." Naruto wiped his eyes. Naruto grinned. "I have a clan. I know what you said, but I have a clan. They may be dead and gone, but I have a clan." Fresh tears flew down his face as he sniffed. Itachi understood. Naruto kept going. "All my life, I have been alone. No one knew who I was. All Hokage Gigi told me was that my name was Uzumaki Naruto. He didn't tell me anything about my parents except that they were dead, that they died on the day of Kyuubi's attack. I always wondered about my family, but I never knew anything about them. But now, even if they are dead, I know that they were my family." Naruto wiped his tears. "I have a clan. I am no longer alone. I am Uzumaki Naruto of the Uzumaki clan." He looked up at Itachi. "To me, it is enough. You know more? Can you tell me more, please?" "All else I know is that the Uzushiogakure fell during the Second Shinobi War. I didn't even know about the Uzumaki clan until I became a Nukenin and traveled the lands," said Itachi. "I would like to go there to see the place at least once, even if I might not like it, I would still like to see it," said Naruto. He wants to see the place where his ancestors lived, even if now he finds only ruins. "For this you will need to have a boat, you will have a long way to go." Whatever Itachi wanted to say next was interrupted when a clone that Itachi sent to guard the place dispelled. "Kisame is approaching soon." Naruto nodded. Kisame decided to go and get more food, but in reality he wanted to leave Naruto and Itachi alone and see how they got along. His attention was diverted when he saw that Naruto had turned into an exact replica of him. "Hey! What's going on?" He glanced at them. "Why is the brat hinged into me?" Itachi merely glanced at him. "He wishes to show his jutsu." Itachi frowned. He activated his Sharingan. "Naruto-kun, did you learn this by yourself too?" Naruto got a proud look on his face. "Of course." "Well, you're doing it wrong." Itachi deadpanned. "EHHH?" Naruto deflated comically. "You are supposed to layer the chakra outside. You are layering it inside your body." Itachi explained. "I manage better in this way, instead," said Naruto. Itachi reached out and poked the Naruto Kisame in the ribs. Kisame had to suffer the indignity of watching himself giggle like a girl. "That tickles." Itachi looked at the pseudo Kisame with a contemplating gaze. "It is very unusual." Naruto changed back to himself. "How so?" Itachi looked at the curious eyes of the boy and felt a twinge in his heart. Naruto was reminding him of the times he taught his brother, when he had free time. The usual henge is more of a small layer of illusion, draped over one's body. That is why, even if Kisame makes a henge of you, he can't become as light as you. Even if your friend makes a henge of Kisame, he can't lift heavy objects that Kisame can, or fly by henge into a bird. He looked at Naruto meditatively. "Can you henge into a non-living thing, like a rock?" Naruto considered the question. "I do not know. I've never tried." He grinned and formed the ram seal. "Here goes." He poofed into a small orange-colored rock. Kisame snorted at the color, but Itachi picked it up. He threw it a few times in the air. The weight has also changed. That doesn't happen in a henge. He had a thoughtful look for a moment, then suddenly, without warning, he threw the rock with all his might. Only a second after he had thrown it, the rock poofed back into a screaming orange ninja, flying through the air, his arms flailing. Itachi, on the other hand, spoke meditatively, has full consciousness of his surroundings. Impressive. In the other side, another clone of Itachi leapt up and caught the screaming blonde. He dropped the Naruto onto his feet and poofed into smoke. That caught Naruto's attention. He stopped the screaming and turned to Itachi. "You can do it too?" "Yes. Itachi nodded. He can do one better, brat. Kisame grinned. He ignored Itachi's glare. He can make his clones explode. What? Naruto became excited. You too. Chapter 6. Training begins and some advice. What else you can do, Naruto-kun? Asked Itachi. Naruto put a hand behind his head and looked slightly embarrassed. Well, I know a bit of the taijutsu they taught in academy. Naruto made a Kagebunshin no Jutsu with which he started to fight at a distance from where Kisame and Itachi be able to study at what Naruto knew. Bad. It looks like he learned most of his taijutsu on his own, and what little was taught is obviously taught wrong. I have to start all over with him, and have to make him and his body forget what the academy learned him, said Itachi while he and Kisame watched Naruto. Kisame looked at Itachi so. Kisame grinned. Got to you too, huh? You were right, Naruto-kun is very similar to us. He has an interesting. Itachi searched for an appropriate word, perspective on life. Kisame nodded. Yeah, I felt that too. The kid is interesting, all right. Kisame turned his attention back to Naruto, who returned. I will teach you my own style. The academy teaches nothing but the basics, said Itachi. This will be interesting to see how long the kid will last, thought Kisame. Night. Naruto was never sure if he admired or hated both Itachi and Kisame. He could never pinpoint exactly what made him feel that Itachi and Kisame took a perverse pleasure in running him into the ground, but he was completely convinced that it was true. Despite that, he also had to admit that he felt better than he ever had in life. He was making progress. Itachi and Kisame pushed him harder than he'd ever worked in his entire life, but Naruto couldn't help but admit that he was starting to see why Itachi and Kisame trained him the way it did. It worked. And that could explain why Kisame and Itachi were such powerful shinobi. They know the right training method. Each person learns differently, and they found different methods and used the ones that brought them to full potential for them, and they did the same with me, thought Naruto before falling asleep from the work done today. Naruto-kun is truly a self-made ninja, said Itachi to Kisame. Yes, after he gets used to training like that alone, said Kisame. So far his taijutsu starts to be good. I think we should teach him a jutsu or two for long distance because so far the only jutsu he knows is Shuriken Kagebunshin Jutsu, said Itachi. Yes, we may soon have another mission and it would be better for him to be prepared to fight alone, said Kisame, knowing that their missions can take a long time until they can meet with him again. Next day. What's your elemental affinity, kid? Naruto just looked confused as he repeated, elemental affinity? What's that? Kisame sighed as Itachi explained. There are the 5 elemental chakra natures, which are the foundation of all elemental ninjutsu. They are so vital to the shinobi lifestyle that each of the 5 great shinobi countries is named after one of the 5. Each element is naturally weaker than and stronger than another, and elemental affinity means which element you can use best. Many higher-level shinobi can use more than one type of elemental jutsu. They manage that after lots of practice, but their main element, called their affinity, is usually only one. They practice and develop other affinities later in life. Naruto nodded as he understood. After Itachi finished explaining to Naruto about each element, Naruto asked, "How do I know what is my element?" Naruto was getting very interested in elemental affinities. He had already read in a book about them, but it was only mentioned, not what they were. There is a little test for that. Kisame grinned, but Naruto gulped. He had never been good at tests. He looked at Kisame. Is the affinity decided by the marks? If I fail the test, I don't get any affinity? Kisame and Itachi stood still for a moment, then Kisame began to laugh. He laughed for a few minutes. Naruto waited as Kisame finally stopped, wiping tears from his eyes. You really are one interesting brat, kid. He straightened as he shook his head. The test isn't a paper-pencil test, although a paper is involved. You just have to mold your chakra and focus it on the paper. One's affinity can be determined using pieces of paper made from a special type of tree that is grown and fed with chakra, said Itachi. When this so-called Chakra Kanoshi is exposed to even the slightest hint of chakra, it reacts according to the chakra's latent element, said Kisame. Then he took out a scroll from an inside pocket of his cloak. He opened it and summoned more scrolls from inside. Naruto glanced at them as curiosity got the better of him. Wow, so many things I really have to learn sealing jutsu too, thought Naruto. Kisame stood up and turned to the Naruto. He unwrapped a packet and took out a few old-looking papers from it. Naruto noticed happily that they weren't big enough to write on. He hadn't been fully convinced that he wouldn't have to write a test. Kisame held out one to Naruto. Here kid, try it. Naruto accepted the paper. Naruto looked at the paper as he focused chakra on it. The paper split into two. Naruto dropped it in surprise. He turned to Kisame and Itachi. Kisame looked at the pieces of the paper Naruto had dropped. He picked them up. This, he shook the paper pieces, happens for the wind type. Naruto looked at the paper in Kisame's hands and grinned, that means dash. Yeah kid, it means you are a wind type. Kisame finished for the boy. Kisame was sure Itachi have copied a few with his Sharingan. Wind chakra is very rare. It is also very dangerous in a fight. I know a wind jutsu that would work well in combination with your Shuriken Kage Bunshin jutsu, said Itachi. Naruto became excited. This is so cool. Night. He's getting the hang of it, said Itachi. Pretty quick too, Kisame noted. Practicing with clones speed up the process. Naruto-kun has massive chakra reserves so he can pull it off well, said Itachi. He knows what he's doing, Kisame chuckled, turning back to see the boy standing down on earth tired after all his clones vanished into smoke. Itachi showed Naruto the rather basic wind jutsu, Futun Gale Poem. The idea of this jutsu was to compress the wind chakra in between clasped hands and unleash it as a powerful gust. The technique was a basic C-rank jutsu. Naruto was excited to finally be learning his first elemental jutsu. Being only a C-rank jutsu, it only took a day to get the basics of the jutsu down. The hardest part was compressing the chakra between hands before he infused it with the wind element. Believe it or not, the compression part was not too difficult for Naruto. The results were rather impressive for a first time as Naruto unleashed his attack on an unsuspecting tree, managing to rip a few larger branches off of it. In combat, this technique was not necessarily meant to wound an opponent, but knock them back with a great force of wind. It also showed promise as a defensive technique, being able to blow away most thrown projectile weapons. Itachi also told him that when he uses Shuriken Kage Bunshin Jutsu, then he can add Futun Gale Palm to increase the speed of the Shuriken Kage Bunshin Jutsu. Kisame went to caught some fish and Itachi and Naruto went to make the campfire. I wanted to ask you something, said Naruto after Kisame left. Naruto remembered the time Itachi had told him about his reasons for serving the village, about his philosophy about the duty of a shinobi. Itachi saw the connections forming, and a look of resolution came over his face. Why did you have to choose this? Asked Naruto. This is not right, Itachi cut him off. It's what I chose. My sacrifice is a small one, in the grand scheme of things. If this keeps the village safe, then I'll gladly pay it. Naruto looked at him. Sometimes we have to do what's right, even if it hurts the ones closest to us. Itachi looked at him. Sometimes we have to follow orders that we hate, in order to protect what we love. Itachi spoke quietly, and saw Naruto nod. Then Naruto chose to ask something else. If I become strong, does that mean I can force those in Konoha to let me become a Hokage? I'll admit that you're stronger than before. But because of that, you seem to have lost sight of what's truly important. Now listen carefully. If you forget others because you now have power, and become arrogant and egotistical, you'll eventually become more worse than the people of the village, who abhorred you. Itachi took a deep breath before continuing. Becoming the Hokage doesn't mean people will acknowledge you. But when the people acknowledge you, you can become Hokage. Never forget your friends. Naruto began to remember that he was not alone all the time, and even now he had friends. But I abandoned the only people who believed in me, said Naruto, remembering Iruka words which he told Mizuki in that night. Yes, but you want to protect them and those who can't protect themselves. Remember, sometimes we have to do what's right, even if it hurts the ones closest to us, said Itachi. After a few seconds of silence, continued. Those who forgive themselves and are able to accept their true nature, they are the strong ones. I guess you are right, the village does have its dark side and its inconsistencies, but I'm still Naruto Uzumaki of the Konoha and I will protect it from the shadows like you, said Naruto. Naruto, you have already become a Hokage, you are Hokage's shadow, thought Itachi. Morning. Naruto opened his eyes, looking up at the sky. He still feels tired after yesterday. He looked around only to see Itachi and Kisame meditating and another Itachi there which was reading the scroll he had brought from Konoha. Wait, what? Of all scrolls from Konoha, how you managed to steal this one, Naruto-kun? Asked Itachi's clone. Well, you see, I invented a jutsu and, please don't take it from me, jutsu from there is much easier to learn, said Naruto, knowing that it was much easier for him to learn jutsu that needed a lot of chakra. I promise to give back to Hokage Gigi after I finish learning more jutsu. Itachi's clone knew there was no point in wasting time arguing with Naruto and decided to ask directly, how exactly are you going to do that? I can go undetected to Konoha but you can't. If I won't be able to, I'll give it to you when I'm done learning, I promise, please, said Naruto, hoping Itachi will let him continue to learn from the scroll. In the end you said that I have to become strong in order to make a better world, said Naruto, remembering what Itachi had said to him. I guess you're right, as you noticed me and Kisame are meditating, we were called to a meeting in our organization. It may take some days until we finish something very important, keep training until we get back. We still have clones guarding the area if you have any questions, said Itachi's clone before break apart in a flock of crows. After seeing this, Naruto was speechless, but decided to get to work. The base of Akatsuki. In a dark cave, a blurred form of a man waited, his eyes closed. With a bzzz, two figures appeared. The first figure opened his eyes. The eyes had a ring-like pattern in them. We can start, he commanded. Other figures started to appear as well. A hunched figure appeared along with two more. The leader went through 5 hand seals and smacked his open palm on the ground. Kojios no Jutsu, in a puff of smoke a monstrosity emerged. It looked to be the color of wood, and had 2 arms which were shackled together by what looked to be an iron chain. Its upper body was a mishmash of different strange body parts jutting out. All in all, it was quite the disgusting sight to see. Hyuanjutsu, Genryu Kyufusion. The Geto Mazo's mouth opened ominously and out came 9 ethereal dragons. Under leader's command, they opened their maws and bit the Kokuo from multiple angles. Some days later. After Akatsuki have finished sealing Kokuo, the leader's eyes met the red eyes of Sharingan. Itachi. Kisame. He said. Kisame saw Itachi turn his usual calm eyes towards the leader in response. It seems that Itachi-san is going to act like usual in front of the others. Then for quite some time, the leader took reports of the current status of all the members. Itachi and Kisame glided over the part where they meet Naruto. This continued for some time. Finally, the leader closed his eyes. Disperse. The figures disappeared. A few days before, Naruto asked some clone of Itachi and Kisame what was so important that they had to meditate for so long, but the only answer was that it was something important that they were doing in their organization. Naruto decided to leave the subject and focus on training. While Itachi and Kisame were busy sealing Kokuo with the rest of the Akatsuki members, Naruto continued his training in Taijutsu, and finished to learn Futon Gale Palm and worked to combine it with Shuriken Kage Bunshin Jutsu. And worked on something for when real Itachi and Kisame are back. Present. Finally ready. Who would have thought that this could take so long? Let's see what the brat did these days, said Kisame. They had known this day would come soon, when they had to leave. Kisame understood Itachi's thoughts. We can come back after our work is done, he said, looking at the sky. It would be 3 months before he would be able to leave the shadows again and meet Naruto. He looked up at the sky as well. Maybe it was just as well. The fate was telling him that he wasn't yet free of his burden. Itachi nodded to Kisame at his side. "Your two are back," Naruto and the other two clones said, as one. Itachi and Kisame then saw Naruto's clones break apart in a flock of crows. Itachi instinctively activated his Sharingan, assuming it was an illusion. After seeing that it was not, Itachi immediately made a quick series of hand signs and slammed his palm onto the ground, summoning a large crow with a scroll attached to its feet. He grabbed the scroll and opened it, but was greeted only by his own name on the summoning contract. Both Kisame and Itachi stared dumbly at the signature, mind feverishly spinning in circles as they tried to figure out how Naruto had managed to summon crows without a contract. Naruto had a large smile on his face. At Itachi and Kisame's gobsmacked expression, Naruto had laughed and proceeded to summon a Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The clone made the hand sign for a basic transformation, and Itachi and Kisame stared at the clone as it pulled apart in a flock of crows. Now that they were paying attention, they noticed the crows disperse into smoke as soon as they spread out, their distance from one another causing too much strain on the transformation for the clone to survive, but it was an effective bluff nonetheless. Anyone seeing the ruse would assume Naruto had managed to disappear in the same way Itachi himself had. Such out-of-the-box thinking was, as Itachi had learned, simply the way Naruto's mind worked. He had been on his own for so long that he'd never built up the same assumptions and preconceptions that most of Konoha's shinobi had, either from the academy or their family training, so he simply didn't know when something couldn't be done. Naruto felt tired at making these clones. He needed a lot more chakra, just like with Bunshin Daibakoa. It wasn't something that could spam like Kage Bunshin no Jutsu all day. Because with these clones he had to put more chakra. Again. You never cease to amaze me, Naruto. Itachi's eyes went over the condition of the boy. Naruto looked a little tired from his practicing. How long have you been thinking about this? He asked. Naruto grinned at that. Ever since I saw you use it. He rubbed his neck. I have to admit, very impressive, said Kisame. I'm afraid, I and Kisame have to leave now, said Itachi, then watched as the expression on Naruto's face traveled from curiosity to sadness. What? Why? He asked. Itachi reached out and patted his head. We have a mission. Naruto's mouth formed an O. Then he smiled. So it's not like we're not gonna meet again then? His eyes making inverted S as he grinned wide. Once again, Itachi wondered at Naruto's optimism and positive outlook on life. Of course, Naruto. He patted the blonde's head again. Don't forget, Naruto, it doesn't matter how many jutsu you know, and to know how to use the ones you have at full potential, and always remember, Naruto. Battles are fought from here. He rested his fingers on Naruto's chest, over the blonde's heart. But are won from here. He shifted his hand to tap Naruto's temple. Naruto nodded, understanding. Chapter 7. Fairy Tales and Memories. Konoha. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Hokage, the professor, the Kami no Shinobi, was tired and afraid. He hadn't slept for more than 2 hours last night, and he still had to get back to work. Also today the pile of paperwork was more than ever. He knew rounding up academy teachers would make more paperwork, but not this much. Well, it had to be done, such is the life of a Hokage. He sighed and got back to reading and signing the paperwork. He was distracted by the knock on his door. Come in, he said. Hiruzen would take any distraction that would stop him from doing paperwork. Hokage-sama, we still have had no success in locating Uzumaki-san. The aging Hokage closed his eyes and let out a slow breath. How had the academy student avoided detection for so long? It didn't make any sense, thought Hiruzen. 1 month and still no sign of the ever-elusive Oto village or the never-elusive Naruto. The Sandaime doubted he would be found until he wanted to be. Sarutobi let out a small sigh. It was rather hard to wage war on a village that you didn't know the location of. And he wouldn't know for at least another week when the ANBU squad assigned to scout it out came back. Assuming they found anything to scout out at all. Letting his thoughts wander to the blonde demon container, he couldn't help but bristle with fear at how much danger he put himself in by carrying and learning the techniques of the scroll. The blonde had shown that he could take care of himself if the broken hunter Nin that stumbled back into Konoha after encountering him were anything to go by. The fact that Naruto had learned another jutsu from the scroll so easily startled the professor, but he didn't think that his wayward charge would have such an easy time with the other jutsu on the scroll. Despite his doubts, he had learned not to underestimate the young, soon-to-be missing Nin of Konoha. After seeing what 1 month had done for the ninja of Konoha who were preparing for war, he could only wonder what it could for a ninja with a demon in his navel. The Chunin exams that were to be held in Konoha soon. And he still has to talk to Kushina about what he's going to do, especially about that masked man. But there was still something to investigate. Flashback. Uzugakure and their relationship with Konoha is in academy curriculum. Right? Hiruzen asked. Seeing an instructor from the academy's confused face, he realized that they didn't know. No, Hokage-sama. Even I don't know anything about it, replied the instructor. Hokage, hearing this, started leaking killing intent while returning to his office. Kushina was right when she told him that Uzumaki should be mentioned in the academy, that they could only use jutsu with a lot of chakra. The Hokage was thinking about why the curriculum does not include the history of Uzugakure. This is one more question that has to be asked. I don't know why it was removed from the curriculum, but I will get to the root of it. Maybe the elders or Danzo know something about this, thought Hiruzen. Flashback end. Kakashi entered his house through the window. He couldn't even remember when was the last time the door had been used. He had somewhere he needed to be. He picked up the flowers he had asked Guy to drop by at his window. He jumped from rooftop to rooftop until he reached a corner of the village, going towards the training fields. As he left the crowded part of down behind, he jumped down to the ground. He walked slowly to his destination. Finally, the memorial stone came into view. Kakashi's steps slowed as guilt weighed down on him. He already had enough guilt to last him until he died, but today, he had even more. Even since he had left his sensei's son alone when he should have comforted and protected him. The day when he had lost the last remaining link to happier times. He stood before the stone, his experienced eyes tracing the name on the shiny stone surface. Namake's Minato. I'm sorry, sensei. He stood, his head bowed in shame. I failed you. His eyes went to another name. Uzumaki Kushina. I don't even know what you would do to me if you were here. I failed everyone. I'm sorry, Kushina. Uchiha Obito. I'm sorry, Obito. He put the flowers down. I failed to save another person I vowed to protect. His eyes traced the name of the last member of his team. Noara Rin. I wonder what would you have said if you were here. He stood silent for a moment. I'm sorry, Rin. How long he stood there, he didn't know. He turned and walked back towards his house. You're killing me, Kakashi, murmured Kushina quietly as she watched from her hiding spot. Kakashi is probably blaming himself again. He should be living, not guilt-tripping himself into misery. Don't worry, after I'm done with you, you won't stay like that, grinned Kushina. It will take a few days, but it will be worth it. Life is not worth living without good pranks. Night. Kushina was used to the opportunity to sneak out unnoticed. However, as she come back to compound, she came face to face with a visitor. Hello, Kushina, said Hiruzen. Kushina laughed nervously. Sarutobi. Nice night, isn't it? The old man nodded. Indeed. What are you up to? Kushina blinked in feigned innocence. Who, me? Nothing. Sarutobi raised a brow. They decided to go inside where they sat at a table to talk. Oh yes, I wanted to ask you earlier but I forgot. Kushina begins. You complain about paperwork, why don't you just make Kagebunshin no Jutsu and have them do it? This causes Hiruzen Sarutobi to freeze up. A few seconds later. Stupid. 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 Hiruzen repeats, banging his forehead against the table. During this time Kushina regretted that she did not have something to record this with. His reaction amused Kushina to no end. You were right about Uzumaki clan, I don't know why, but it was removed from the curriculum, but I will get to the root of it. Maybe the elders or Danzo know something about this, said Hiruzen. Kushina stiffened. She didn't like the village elders, but she especially didn't like Danzo. The old coot wanted to turn her into a human weapon during the Third Great Shinobi War. If Minato and her didn't invent the Hiraition no Jutsu, invented is not really a suitable word, better say completely changed the FTG formula, Minato not only mastered but upgraded it. An upgrade isn't a light word to put in place of knew how to use better and used it to turn the war in the Leafs' favor. She would have been placed on the field as their trump card. The elders do not deal with Danzo anymore, Kushina. Sarutobi tried to reassure her. Yeah, but it doesn't mean Danzo still doesn't deal with them, Kushina begged to differ. Danzo likely spying on them using his root puppets, she told him honestly. Don't worry, when Jiraiya brings Naruto back, I'll make sure nothing bad happens to him. I kind of doubt that, said Kushina. Why do you doubt Jiraiya? Asked Hiruzen. You know, I saw Kakashi today while I was undercover, and I noticed what Jiraiya's book he was reading. Do you have any excuse for that? Asked Kushina. I can't be held responsible for Kakashi, said Hiruzen. That perverted Jiraiya was your student and Minato mentor him. Somewhere in the land of fire, Jiraiya sneezed. Come to think about it, Minato, and you said his books were your and Minato's favorites. All Jiraiya-sama writes are those erotic porn novels. Kushina glare turned deadly. Kushina. Now isn't the time for this, said Hiruzen. You talked to Kakashi? Asked Hiruzen, trying to make Kushina forget about those books at any cost. No, but he looks very depressed, and I said I'd cheer him up with a prank, said Kushina. It wasn't really a prank, it's not my fault, I haven't done this in a long time. What did you did to him? Asked Hiruzen. I put a cat in a tree and I transformed into a little girl. When he passed by while reading his book, I asked him to help me get the cat down. Kushina started laughing a little. When he put his book in his pocket, I stole it without him realizing. After he gave me the cat from 3, I said thank for help, old man, and I left. But not before I heard him say old man? What a day. You should have seen him after that when he realized he had lost the book and now he's still looking for that book, said Kushina, continuing to laugh. Kakashi really needed this prank to get out of depression. Imagine what reaction he will have tomorrow when I put the book back in his pocket, and when he will find it he'll think he's really old, said Kushina. Hiruzen then remembered what the Nidaime Hokage had once told him. I said it before, I'll say it again, insanity is inherited in that clan. Tobirama muttered quietly. I see, what you say if I tell you why I chose Minato of all people to be Hokage, said Hiruzen, hoping Kushina will forget about Jiraiya and his books. Okay, let's hear it, said Kushina. She really wanted to hear this. Flashback. You still want me to be Hokage even after all this? Asked Minato. Is there a reason for me not to? Hiruzen asked. I chose you as my successor because you are the best, and since then I have never been prouder of you. You are a great man who makes a great Hokage. Hiruzen walked over to Minato and stood eye level with him. Did I ever tell you why I picked you to be Hokage over Orochimaru? Minato shook his head. Well, no specific reason. It's because you value life, Minato, at all its levels. There's no shadow of a doubt you understand more than ever now. Hiruzen trailed off with a fond smile. Flashback end. You know, this reminds me of another old memories, said Kushina. Flashback. Kushina had resigned herself to pacing in her home. Her husband had been missing since yesterday morning and she had every right to be worried. What worried her more was what was going to happen to her baby. Minato was a genius, but sometimes there were limitations. With a sigh, Kushina whispered, Minato, where are you? Right behind you, Kushina dash. Databane. Kushina as she punched the intruder. Seeing it was her husband, she snarled at him and shook her fist. How many times have I told you not to sneak up on me like that? Cammy! Are you trying to give me a heart attack? While rubbing his throbbing shoulder, Minato said, "Ah wow, Kushina." Kushina sighed in relief. Minato, I knew you would come home late, but, geez. 2 days, Minato? 2 whole days. I know, I'm sorry, Kushiwo. Minato was nearly knocked off his feet as Kushina ran into his arms and hugged him tightly. I'm glad you're home, Kushina whispered into his ear. She kissed him on cheek and moved back. Where were you the last couple of days anyway? Minato Namikaze was considered many things: genius, prodigy, even the child of prophecy, a title bestowed by his sensei Jiraiya, of course. That was, until Minato told her about his little confrontation with Danzo, said pompous little ass. Kushina, it's Danzo. No matter what anyone does, he'll always object unless it benefits him in some sort. Minato assumed a thinking position, holding his chin. But how exactly does he benefit from being Dash? A pompous little ass? Kushina finished. Well, I wouldn't word it like that exactly, but yeah, said Minato. Why can't that pompous little ass just mind his own damn business? Asked Kushina. I don't know, he thinks he'll eventually convince me to listen to his ideas for improving things in Konoha in his own way, said Minato. Kushina scoffed. Yeah right, and the QB masturbates when he watches us having sex, she said as she rolled her eyes. Minato stared at her. What's with the look? Asked Kushina. The QB masturbates when we. Kushina snorted. Oh, come on. I'm just kidding you. I hope so, said Minato. Flashback end. So what do you have to say about that? Kushina asked the stunned retired Hokage. Looking disturbed, Sarutobi asked, the QB masturbates. I was joking. Joking, Kushina said. The old man let out a tired sigh. I hope so. He involuntarily shivered. His reaction amused Kushina to no end. Hiruzen decided it was time to discuss more important things now. Kushina, if that masked man was so strong that Minato came to that decision that night. Now Kushina went into serious mode. I really think we need all help we can get to beat him, and you know what I mean. Sarutobi nodded. Because what we do here doesn't need to become public knowledge. Hiruzen took a deep breath. The Edo Tensei and what will be done in the future. I'll admit, I wish we could simply forget it ever existed. Either way, I decided that there are things that I simply cannot allow to continue like this. This was perhaps the most difficult decision I made in all my time as Hokage, but I hereby declare the formation of a new branch of Konoha shinobi, whose very existence, and even more the identities of their members, is an SS rank secret. He unsealed one set of clothing. Kushina grabbed it, and gave it a look. It was a fairly simple set of gray clothing: baggy pants, socks, sandals, long-sleeved shirts, a special piece of clothing that was pulled over the head and covered neck and head, while having holes for face and hair, a gray mask looking similar to a blank Hunter Nin's mask, and a long hooded coat, the kanji for forbidden printed in black against the gray threads. Kushina looked at it. Interesting design. Sarutobi nodded. How is progress with Minato? You managed to find a way to call in with Edo Tensei? From what I read in Lady Mito's book, she helped Tobarama make Edo Tensei and Hiraition no Jutsu, and a temple was also mentioned that has some special masks. If you can get them, they would be very helpful, said Kushina. I'll see what I can do, said Hiruzen. Chapter 8. Face the World Alone. Part 1. Ha, thanks for the meal, old man. Naruto gave a mock salute to the man at the ramen. Ever since Itachi and Kisame had to leave, Naruto traveled from place to place. He had enough money from those Konoha ninjas who attacked him before meeting Kisame and Itachi. It was enough to make sure he always had money in pocket when it needed food to eat and a place to stay for a while before moving on. Itachi told Naruto that if he wanted to buy ninja scrolls easier, he could use Henge no Jutsu, especially because his transformations were solid and could avoid being found. Naruto only started doing this only after he got into another fight. Flashback. Naruto turned to the seller. "So, you have anything from Uzushiyogakure no Sato?" he asked. 5 minutes later, Naruto was the proud owner of an Uzushiyogakure metal protector plate of a Hitayate. There had been no cloth attached to it, or Naruto would have worn that right then and there. And a metal amulet of the Uzumaki symbol, which Naruto wore when he was alone. Naruto was so happy he didn't notice he was being watched. After he reached the forest, 3 Konoha ninjas returning from a mission saw him and followed him. Naruto's eyes fluttered open to the steps approaching him. "Here we go again," said Naruto. 30 feet away there were 3 Konoha shinobi, all of them with a kunai in a hand. "Uzumaki-san, the Hokage has ordered us to bring you back to Konoha. Please don't make this difficult," one of the shinobi said. The shinobi had always treated Naruto a lot better in Konoha than the villagers, another reason why he wanted to become one. "Why should I come back? I thought you would all be happy that you got rid of me," said Naruto. "This is our order," one of the shinobi said. "He is right, Naruto-kun, please come back peacefully," another shinobi said, in pleasant voice. "This will not happen. It's time to show you how strong I have become without Konoha holding me back," said Naruto. Naruto made an army of clones with Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, who went to attack the 3 shinobi of Konoha with taijutsu, while a few clones stood behind with Naruto. "He's probably planning to distract us with clones so he can run," one of the shinobi said. The clones fighting shinobi knew how to use taijutsu pretty good, but Naruto wasn't an expert yet because he didn't fight too much. Itachi's training helped him a lot, but he needed more experience in a real fight. While the shinobis were destroying Naruto's clones, Naruto and the remaining clones on his side decided to try a new attack that Naruto thought of in his spare time. Naruto and the clones next to him were 6 in all. Naruto concentrated his chakra and did 3 Bunshin Daibokoha clones. After that, Naruto and the other 5 clones, they formed Futon, Gale Palm in their hands. Each, 2 pair of clone released with Futon, Gale Palm, the Bunshin Daibokoha clone. After 3 shinobi finished destroying all the clones, they were bombarded by 3 Naruto that were launched towards them. And on impact with the 3 shinobi, these clones exploded. The explosion sent every Konoha shinobi flying, and they were slammed into trees with backbreaking force, leaving them unconscious. Naruto was surprised. His clones put up a pretty good fight with taijutsu, and this time he quickly managed to prepare for the next attack. Naruto could have attacked them with Shuriken Kage Bunshin Jutsu, but he didn't want to risk killing them. Maybe he exaggerated a little with Bunshin Daibokuha, but he made sure those clones didn't make an explosion too big. Watching with no small amount of satisfaction to the 3 fallen shinobi, Naruto said if only Konoha would keep out of things that doesn't concern them. Flashback end. Naruto thought that now, because he was using Henge no Jutsu, it will be easier for him to avoid fighting and could stay hidden. But he still had to deal with the huge scroll he was still carrying in the backpack with his money, books, and food. It was time to learn sealing jutsu. Iruka was an expert when it came to finding Naruto, but even he had his limits. He managed with a little luck to get to some places that Naruto visited, but he was at least a week later. If there was one thing that surprised Iruka, it was that many of the older people in this place, he was now said that a child with orange clothes and yellow hair and green glasses helped them in the days he was there with the luggage carrier, and he was very friendly. Iruka couldn't give up now, it was so close. All he could hope for was that it wouldn't be too late to find him. Before he left, the Hokage told him that Jiraiya of the Sannin would look for Naruto as well, so at least he wasn't the only one looking for him. "Where are you, Naruto? Please be safe wherever you are, and hold on until I find you," thought Iruka. Naruto started to read a book he just bought. Usually he let his clone read books and more than one time to make sure the clone who read didn't miss something. After a clone read a page of a book, another clone read it again. Naruto repeated the method many times so that he would not forget anything he had read. But this book really interested him. He really wanted to read with his own eyes about the arts of Fuinjutsu. Naruto opened up the book and began reading. Fuinjutsu is, as its name implies, it is the art of sealing techniques. It is also a very misunderstood art. Most people see Fuinjutsu as simply that, sealing for the most part. They see it as simply sealing weapons inside scrolls. It, however, is much more than simply sealing a simple tool inside a scroll. In terms of sealing an object of power within something, a tool being sealed inside a scroll is the simplest form of sealing jutsu. Another simple form of sealing is containing energy within a slip of paper. In other words, these are paper bombs. They contain some sort of energy, usually fire and heat, which is released in an explosive manner when the seal is released. It didn't contain much more besides a bunch of examples of Fuinjutsu, besides actually sealing. Reading the list, a few applications of Fuinjutsu that stuck out to Naruto were amplification, transportation, barriers, and even medicine. He hated to admit it, but that book was surprisingly interesting. The seals. Sealing formulas used in Fuinjutsu are comprised of two main components, the central kanjis and sealing matrix. Every seal has these two components and each component serves a vital function of the seal. Naruto continued reading through this book and even reread it. There were many interesting things, many of them he understood very quickly even if he didn't know how. Everything that could be thought of as an answer was due maybe because it was in his genes and his blood, being in Uzumaki. That could be the explanation. Itachi told him that Uzumaki were very talented with Fuinjutsu, at least that was the only thing he could think of. Night. Naruto started training with the help of his clones. He quickly learned one day how to do simple sealing. For the moment he knew how to seal something and unseal. He was satisfied for today. Now he didn't have to carry a scroll on his back all the time, same with the food. Naruto was thinking of reading one of these days in the section that contained the forbidden seals from the forbidden scroll. First he wanted to finish what he still had to learn from the book. Naruto wanted to visit Uzushiogakure. Itachi told him in one of those nights he will have a long way to go and that he needed a big boat and resistance to any storms or waves that would appear. He had to find one or pay someone to build one for him. Naruto was still thinking about some conversations he had with Itachi. Flashback. I don't want to kill people, said Naruto. I don't like to do it either, but it's a sad fact of this reality. And it will stay that way, until there are people who decide to change it, said Itachi. There are people who you may be able to change them, but talking to them will not always be the solution. I want to change that, Itachi-san. Naruto decided. Yeah, me too. But Naruto-kun. Itachi says, serious again. In this world, you have to be strong in order to change it. You've heard about Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama, right? Asked Itachi. Naruto was trying to remember what he knew from the academy about the two of them, but before he could give an answer Itachi continued. They wanted peace as well, and that's why they made Konoha. But in order to do it, they had to be very strong. In fact, they were probably the strongest shinobi alive, back then. Yes, but it's still not good. I'm a prime example that things aren't as they should be, said Naruto. Itachi smiles, a bit sadly. I told you that you don't have to be shinobi if you don't want to. I don't think you should be forced into something like that. But being a shinobi is also more than just killing and fighting. It's about protecting the people you care about, and it's also about becoming strong enough to make a difference. Because, in the end, that was how it worked. Even Naruto could not have accomplished his training without chakra reserves which he had, in which they grew more than to a normal Uzumaki because of Kyuubi. Everyone needs a little help. You know, Naruto-kun, maybe you'll be the first to change the way Jinchuriki are seen, said Itachi. Flashback end. Shivering slightly, the A-class missing nin of Konoha spread his sleeping bag out underneath a particularly large tree and climbed in, pulling the bag's sides in close for warmth. Confident that his army of clones who were guarding the forest would alert him of anyone coming in the dark, he closed his eyes and drifted off to sleep. Konoha night. Any news about Naruto? Shikaku sighed. Well. Shikamaru looked up towards his dad's face. No, not yet. A couple of teams are yet to return. A team found him when they came by chance from a mission. But all we know is that Naruto defeated all 4 of them using Bunshin Daibukoa, he informed his son. Naruto managed to defeat them all? Shikamaru looked in disbelief. Shikaku gave a small half-smile as he said, perhaps your friend is much better than you think. Flashback. 2 weeks after graduating exams. Shikamaru was usually very lazy, but it was quite clever to notice that the village was quiet, far too quiet. Naruto hasn't done pranks in a long time. Maybe he finally started focusing more on academia, maybe I should pay him a visit to see. Shikamaru deemed it to be troublesome to worry about, but Naruto may be a knucklehead but is not like him just to disappear, especially if he can't be found outside pulling pranks, thought Shikamaru. But apparently he couldn't find him anywhere. It was as if he had disappeared completely, Irika too, so he decided to ask his father if he knew what happened to him and why Naruto was hated that bad in the past, because he indeed asked this a long time ago when he was younger, but he didn't really get a complete answer. Well. Shikamaru looked up towards his dad's face. Naruto was part of an incident that caused the village a great deal, including the death of Naruto's own parents. However, even though Naruto was an only small child at that moment, the villagers all blamed him anyway because of that, and there was an incident after graduating exams that made Naruto to want to leave Konoha, said Shikaku. And what happened to him? Asked Shikamaru. All I can tell you, Shikamaru, is that Naruto has not yet been found. If no one asks about him, it will be better keep this to yourself, said Shikaku. Flashback end. Shikamaru deemed it to be troublesome, but he hoped that Naruto and Irika to be okay. Morning. When Naruto had woken up, he had decided to go for another powerful jutsu he had brought from Konoha. Like every morning, Naruto put his clones to practice some form of chakra control to keep himself in good shape. They made the regular water and tree walking and got the leaf floating exercise down. Itachi told him to start doing this every morning. At first Naruto did not understand why it was necessary, but he began to see the effect of his work when he had increased the amount of Kage Bunshin he could train with from 25 to 50, and that was something very amazing to him. What to choose this time? Said Naruto. He wanted to try something not too hard. And these were some of the remaining jutsu that were not sealing jutsu left. Kuchiyos, Rashomon. The user summons a large gate. The gate itself is designed to look frightening, with the gate's doors having a demonic face upon them. This is to intimidate onlookers, potentially warding them off. The gate's doors are tightly shut and solidly built, making it useful as a shield against most forms of physical attack. The stronger the attack, the more damage the attacker will do to themselves when they try and fail to break through the gate. And there were 2 more similar jutsu but with more gates: Kuchiyos, Sunju Rashomon, and Kuchiyos, Goju Rashomon. They look great, but they say they are big. I better wait to get to a place where I can't attract attention before I try them. Next, said Naruto. Hashimon. Naruto saw that this jutsu had too many details. It contains 8 types of gates? Too much to read. Naruto decided to skip it for now. Kokwanjio no Jutsu. The user places a hallucinatory darkness on a target's eyesight, causing them to see nothing but black. To no show likens the sensation to being at the bottom of a deep hole. Because the target cannot see, they are very vulnerable to attack. Although this handicap is dangerous even to target, it is not insurmountable, as the target is able to sense attacks to try to defend himself and smell his attackers in order to stage a counterattack. This seems easier and it's not very long. I should be able to learn quickly, said Naruto. He had picked up with his mind fixed on learning the jutsu before the night was out. He promised himself he would never go back on his word. That's his nindo. Some days later, Naruto journeyed and came to this country, which he found close on the map. Maybe here I will find where to get a good boat or to convince someone to make me one, said Naruto to himself. The Land of Waves is a nation located on an island near the Land of Fire. It does not have a hidden village, thus relying on seeking assistance from other hidden villages like Konoha. The Land of Waves has many rivers running through it and is famous for its mangroves, which are filled with all kinds of life forms. Though an isolated island, relying on shipping for commerce and trade, it was prosperous. Naruto later on found that this changed when Gato set his sights on it, breaking the people's will and monopolizing the shipping industry. Naruto didn't know should he try and fix this on his own or just leave. No, this was his first try to be a true ninja, a hero to protect this world. That's what he trained for. This seems to be his first challenge. Chapter 9. Face the World Alone. Part 2. The Land of Waves. Ever since Naruto got here, he started using Henge no Jutsu and Kage Bunshin no Jutsu to get informed. After a while he managed to find Gato. Naruto had been trying to take him down, but he wasn't sure yet. He went through a few scenarios. If he managed to catch Gato, he could send him to jail, but that doesn't seem like a solution. Gato was very rich, so it wouldn't take long to be free again. There was something else. Naruto, having clones disguised in the city, managed to find out some very important things. Naruto heard about a bridge. If that bridge was made, this can result in downfall of Gato, but bad part was that the guy who was making the bridge was planning to get help from Konoha. Naruto didn't know should he try and fix this on his own or let Konoha do it. Naruto also heard that Gato will hire a rogue ninja. If that will happen, Naruto will have to go into hiding to avoid being discovered and killed, all that while trying to topple Gato's control of Nami no Kuni in other ways. Of course, if he were a normal ninja, Naruto wouldn't be afraid, but since he's been here, he heard rumors. As one of the best known in this place was one of the 7 swordsmen of Kirigakure, Kisame told some stories about those 7 swordsmen of Kirigakure. Even Itachi mentioned that he had another partner before Kisame named Juzobiwa, who was one of the 7 swordsmen as well. And that leads us to where we are now. Naruto has to solve this before the ninja that Gato wanna hire will show up. After Naruto discovered all of this, he knew he didn't have much time left. No, this was his first try to be a true ninja, a hero to protect this world. It was evening now. Naruto was thinking that Guy will leave tomorrow to Konoha and most likely Gato will hire a ninja soon. One problem seemed solved, but another was about to arise. If he couldn't convince Gato with his words, then he had to do what was necessary. And Naruto wasn't sure he was ready for this yet because he still doesn't have the courage to kill. Tomorrow will be his last chance. I have to put my emotions aside. I'm doing this for a greater good. I will be a hero who will save the people from Land of Waves, thought Naruto. Naruto had already experienced the shinobi world and Itachi told him what he needed to do to change it. Naruto has decided to rest for tomorrow when he puts his plan into action. Morning. Naruto woke up and was preparing to infiltrate Gato's base. While Naruto spent in the Land of Waves, he managed to have clones disguised as Gato's people, and that is how he found out where his base was. Some of those books on how to be a ninja were very helpful. Naruto reached the base of his Gato, seeing a few of Gato's people leaving. Naruto used Henge to turn into one of them. In order to gain funds for a second coup d'état, Zabuza Momochi became a mercenary assassin for hire. As one of his jobs, it was announced that Gato wanted him for a mission. For the moment, Haku and the Demon Brothers were heading for Gato's hideout when a very big explosion was heard from that direction. When they got there, the place was still full of smoke. The fire was still visible through the remains of the Gato's hideout. "What the hell happened here?" said Zabuza. Out of that smoke came a child dressed in orange. Naruto was tired. He never used so much chakra, but he managed to complete the mission. He could rest knowing that he succeeded. Exhausted after using more chakra than ever, Naruto passed out. Haku was the first to go to Naruto. "We should help him, Zabuza-sama." But knowing what kind of person Zabuza is, he added quickly, "I think he might know what happened here." Zabuza accepted. After that, he told the Demon Brothers to go and look for other survivors while he and Haku waited for the boy to wake up. "Naruto, wake up. His ears could hear the sound of running water. He opened his eyes to find himself near a waterfall. He wondered what was happening. Where am I? Then he started to remember last thing he did. Naruto was taken out of his thoughts when he heard, "Are you finally awake?" A gentle voice floated up to him. He turned his head to see a long-haired girl? Or a boy? Walking towards him. "You have been sleeping for 30 minutes, said Haku. He tried to sit up and tried to crawl quickly away from the newcomer. His back rammed into a pair of legs. He looked up to see the most scary-looking man he had ever seen, or was likely to a tall, bare-chested man, with the lower half of his face hidden by bandages, and eyes that scared Naruto into immobility. It probably didn't help that he was carrying a sword larger than Naruto on his shoulders. Wait a second, that guy seems familiar to me, and that sword, thought Naruto. Naruto was still in shock when the long-haired air person kneeled next to him. Don't worry, we are not going to hurt you, said Haku. Naruto turned and looked at the person next to him. He wanted to ask, who are you? Instead, Naruto looked back at Zabuza and asked, you look familiar, are related to Juzo Biwa? One of the 7 swordsmen. Zabuza and Haku were a little surprised the boy in orange knew about the 7 swordsmen and the one who used the sword before him. I am Zabuza Momochi, the demon of the bloody mist. How do you know about Juzo Biwa? Asked Zabuza. 2 friends of mine told me, one of them was a partner with Juzo and another one is a Nukenin 7 swordsman too. I know Juzo is no more, but from the description they gave me you look a lot like him and you have his sword, said Naruto. Zabuza and Haku continue to be even more surprised with every answer Naruto has given so far. Hoshigaki Kisame had left too, albeit in much more style than Zabuza had managed. He had killed the previous daimyo that had been just a puppet in the Mizuki's hands. Zabuza was a bit disgruntled to notice that Kisame had been ranked as a S rank, unlike Zabuza, who was ranked A rank. Perhaps I should have killed the bloody daimyo instead of going after a goddamn Jinchuriki Kage, thought Zabuza. And what are you doing here, boy, and where are your friends now? Zabuza decided to ask after a minute of silence. If this boy was really friends with Hoshigaki Kisame, then there must have been something special with him, thought Zabuza. They were given a longer mission and we decided to meet again in 2 months in the Land of Rivers. Until then I decided to visit more, train to be one of the strongest shinobi, or well, Nukenin I guess, said Naruto, but he decided to answer knowing what question he will be asked next. I left my village because I was not allowed to become a genin and because everyone treated me differently for something that wasn't my fault. They were holding me back, but here I can reach my true potential. So since then I visit places, I make money through methods that I can, and now I want to get a pretty good boat with which I can visit other islands, said Naruto. Naruto didn't want to reveal where he was going to a lot of people. For now, only Itachi knows he wants to go to Yuzushiogakure. I don't think you are a Nukenin, you have to be registered as the official ninja of the village you abandoned to be labeled a Nukenin. You are like me. I am not a registered Kirinin, but Zabuza-sama trained me in the shinobi arts, said Haku, then added. I almost forgot, my name is Haku, which is yours? Naruto. Answered Naruto. Then Zabuza asked. Which village are you talking about? Konoha. Answered Naruto. Why do you want to become a shinobi? Zabuza asked. Why not? Naruto said. Zabuza gave a nod, accepting the blonde's answer. Zabuza was wondering whether he needed another brat in his team if he's still alive after so much time alone. Maybe he's as good as Haku, I should test him, the brat could be useful for the second coup d'etat, thought Zabuza. At the moment they don't have too many people, and that's why they were here, to make more money and raise more aid. And with that civil war there, he should find more help. The Mizukichi was the man who was responsible for the discontent that had led to civil wars in Kirigakure no Sato. He was the man Zabuza had tried to kill and failed, causing him to run away and become a Nukenin. It was Haku who brought up the subject of the future, breaking the tense atmosphere. What are we going to do now, Zabuza-sama? Originally you only agreed to let me take care of him until he was conscious again. Zabuza glanced at the blonde who looked up towards the bandaged ninja. Zabuza asked him. I have 2 questions. First, what the hell happened to Gato and his hiding place? Second, if you prove to me that you are a ninja strong enough to help me in something in the future, I will pay you or recruit you in my team where I will train you. Naruto's eyes widened as he asked, "Why you need me?" Zabuza was taken aback. He hadn't expected to be questioned. The boy was sharp, no matter how much he acted like a fool. Zabuza decided to be frank. "I ran away from my village because I couldn't beat the man responsible for the ruin of my village. As long as he remains in power, I will be hunted. If I have strong shinobi with me, I will be able to fight them off, and one day, fight that man again and take back my village from him." Zabuza looked into the blue eyes of the blonde. "You said you wanted to become a shinobi, but any village that you approach will either turn you away and inform Konoha out of fear from retaliation from your former village. If I save my village, I could become the next Mizukage and I will be able to protect you from Konoha. In short, you will have Kiri by your side to help you when you need." Naruto was thinking that this would not only provide him with protection but could also be the first step to making peace between nations. It was an opportunity he could not refuse. And he will have 2 new friends and maybe even more. It could be a chance to show Itachi that he could achieve peace not only through power but also trust with others. Naruto looked to Zabuza and said, "Does that mean we're going to become friends?" Zabuza and Haku were taken back by this question, then Zabuza smiled evilly. "I suppose, Gaki, but I will treat you like I treat every other man under my command. I warn you, if you want my acknowledgement, you'll have to earn it. And then we can be friends like yous," said Zabuza. He was not used to meeting people who wanted to be friends with him. So the word friends was still a bit difficult for him. After all, the only friends he ever had were in Kirigakure Academy. But Kirigakure Academy graduates against each other in death matches as a final exam with the exceptionally skilled students named prime candidates for the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. After Zabuza, not yet a student himself, killed over 100 academy students, the practice was discontinued and he would thereafter be known as the Demon of the Hidden Mist. His fame grew over the years as he became an Anbu, killing the Konohagakure ninja Kumaid Torichi at that time, before finally joining the 7 swordsmen. After Zabuza said, "I guess Naruto grinned as he said, "Okay. I want to see what you're capable of, but before that, explain to me what happened to Gato," said Zabuza. "The truth is, I managed to get to his base and I tried to talk to him to convince him that what he was doing was not good and that he could change. But it did not work as I planned," said Naruto. Then he looked at the ground and continued. Flashback. "This is the end of the road for you, brat, now kill him," said Gato to his people. But then they saw Naruto break apart in a flock of crows. "It's time to pay for all the harm you've done. You and your people," said Naruto's clone through the crow. While Naruto did not use exactly the same jutsu as Itachi had the Karasu Bunshin no Jutsu, a technique that produces a clone by projecting one's own chakra towards dozens of crows. Because it uses crows as a medium, it requires less chakra than the normal Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, while still being able to perform techniques. The dozens of crows then come together to form the body of a clone. The same crows of the dispersed clone can regroup and form a new clone immediately. When the chakra projected by the user is severed, the crows disperse, though the user is still able to continue to speak through it. When the crow clone is defeated, the crows can regroup to form a new clone immediately, or failing that, can be used to blind the opponent, leaving them open to a counterattack. Naruto managed to reproduce a similar thing using more chakras for clone. So not only could he disappear in a very cool way, his clone could talk as it was transformed into crows. Another advantage for Naruto was that he didn't have to fear that real crows can be attacked or hurt by enemy in an exchange fire in a fight. The place where Naruto and Gato were in was like a house in the air connected to several trees. And now to most of these ropes that kept the construction connected there were a lot of Bunshin Daibakoha clones of Naruto which had tags full of explosives. After Naruto learned to make them, they were easy to produce and many of the materials were easy to find. So when Naruto wasn't training he liked to use his talent in Fuinjutsu and made a pile of explosive tags. All the tags were now glued to the parts that held the construction and a clone to each of them. The original Naruto that just received the memory from the clone who turned into crows and all crows dispelled. Naruto got the memory of the conversation with Gato and know now that there was no turning back. Naruto was near that place a little tired as he used so much chakra shouted at his clones the signal to explode. Boom! Naruto started running away from there while the combination of Bunshin Daibukoha clones and more than 50 tags full of explosives started to blow up Gato's hideout and those inside. Flashback end. The first word Zabuza wanted to say was that he didn't believe him, but looking back he couldn't say it wasn't an explosion there. I don't feel very well, I took the lives of several people even if it wasn't direct and through an explosion. Said Naruto. He was still with his head locking to the ground and without realizing it a few tears came out of his eyes. Looking at him, Zabuza couldn't help but sympathize with him. Do you even know why I'm called the demon of the bloody mist? I killed over 100 kids your age when I was just 11 to become a ninja. You should not care for anybody in this world. Zabuza waited for any retort or declarations that he was lying. None came. Zabuza was conscious of a strange feeling he couldn't really place. It wasn't disappointment, was it? Nah. Even if it was because the kid couldn't think of something witty to say. The next reply from Naruto was so faint that he almost missed it. You must have been so lonely, said Naruto. What did you say? Zabuza asked, completely stunned into immobility. Haku was stunned too. I said, you must have been so lonely. If you could bring yourself to kill at such a young age, you must have suffered so much. I know, because I have felt it too. Naruto locked in Zabuza's eyes. Even I wanted to kill all those who left me alone, treated me like I wasn't good enough for them to be friends with me. Every time they looked at me with those hateful eyes, I wanted to gouge them out. Zabuza couldn't believe what he was hearing. The brat could have been narrating Zabuza's young life in Kiri for all the difference there was in the treatment. Zabuza shook his head. You are just trying to make excuses. I'm a demon. I have always been a merciless killer who would kill even you if it served my purpose. Zabuza argued with the boy. No one is born a killer. Hokage Gigi told me this once. It is later in life that we choose our paths. I could have as easily chosen the same path as you if I did not have anyone to show me any kindness. There were days when I would just bottle my anger and pretend that I didn't care, but I would be angry, so angry that I didn't care who I hurt. At one such time, Hokage Gigi came to my house. How he knew I was angry I don't know, but he came. He came in and gave me a hug. He didn't say anything. He just picked me up and hugged me. I cried so hard that night, in his arms. He just stood there for a long time. Then he took me to the Hokage Tower's roof. That night he told me about all the great Hokage who had their faces on the mountain wall. It was early morning when he finally dropped me back to my house, said Naruto. Zabuza listened quietly to the blonde. I wonder, would I be the same as you? If I hadn't met Irika-sensei, or if some kids like Shikamaru, Shoji didn't treat me like a friend, I might have chosen to walk on the same path as you. So I understand you, said Naruto. Zabuza was suddenly assaulted with an instinct to run away from there. Just go away and later pretend that this never happened. He could remember the villagers shunning him too. Something was wrong. Zabuza Momochi wanted to run away from there? It was like this kid was using a genjutsu on him when he was speaking, or was more like a talk no jutsu. Zabuza didn't know if there was such a thing. You were not born a demon. You became a demon because your villagers called you one until you believed them. I believed I was a demon too. It was Irika-sensei who told me that I was just a normal human. He saved me from my own self. Naruto's voice became louder with each sentence, filled with conviction. So I saved him too, and that night from another ninja before I left to become more powerful and make him proud of me, and show him he was right when he saved me. I understand you. Zabuza looked at the blonde. The blonde had been getting too close for Zabuza's comfort. No one had ever managed to disturb Zabuza as much as Naruto had done. He didn't really think of him as anything other than a tool he would use to bring down Yagura. He didn't even care if he died doing it. That changed now. Zabuza made an angry face and his fist tightened. I don't understand how you do it. How do you remain happy in spite of everything? Is there no pain in your heart? I do, Databeo. Naruto said simply. That is why I know that I must continue to be happy. If I don't, I will get lost in dark. Some people back in Konoha think this was my fate, to be in pain for the rest of my life. I have fought against it ever since that day. No matter what happens, no matter how many times they strike me down, I haven't truly lost until I don't stand up and smile again. No one can take that away from me. You brat. Zabuza spoke. You brings out the best in everyone. Naruto just smiled back. Haku sitting next to them watched the interaction. He had never seen Zabuza in such a situation before. And Zabuza was right, Naruto brings out the best in everyone. After Naruto regained his strength, he showed Haku and Zabuza some of the jutsu he knew. Zabuza held out his hand. Then we have a deal. You showed me that you have potential. All you need is to become more stronger. I will need all help I can get to take down Yagura. Naruto shook Zabuza's hand. Yes, let's go eat something and we can continue the discussion there. After the demon brothers returned, the group of 5 left in search of a worthy ramen stand. After they arrived and were waiting for food, Zabuza decided it was time to talk. From what I've seen, you know some jutsu and you're pretty good at Fuinjutsu, said Zabuza. Yes, but there are some more jutsu I want to try, but I want to do it where my clan was born, the Yuzushiobakure no Sato, said Naruto. So you're an Uzumaki, that explains why your chakra reserves are so big. After a few seconds of silence, Zabuza spoke. You are lucky. What do you mean? Asked Naruto. History is written by the victors. This is a reason why not many people know about your clan. The same is the case with the Hoshigaki clan. One survivor is not something to scare the nations. For example, I bet there are other members of your clan who don't even know they are from a clan, said Zabuza. I understand, so you think you can help me get there? When you need me, you will find me there. I will become much stronger so I can help you save the village, said Naruto. Are you sure? It will take at least another month for me to pick you up from there, asked Zabuza. Yes, I won't be able to be distracted when I train, and at least I'll have time to visit the place, said Naruto, still excited, where he had so much energy no one knew. Very well, you told me that you have an affinity for wind. But that doesn't stop you from learning some water jutsu. I will do some scrolls from which you can learn, said Zabuza. The Yuzushiobakure no Sato was very close to Kiri, so it won't take them long to find him. The next day, Zabuza found someone in a good boat who was willing to take Naruto to the Yuzushiobakure no Sato. Naruto was happy that he would finally get there, but also a little sad because he had already formed a good friendship with Zabuza and Haku and would take something until he met them again. The rest of yesterday was spent buying food for the time spent there. It was very easy with the Fuinjutsu he had. Naruto did a different scroll for each thing. Food, objects, the forbidden scroll and more that he put in his backpack. Before boarding the boat, he shook hands with Zabuza and Haku. Good luck, kid, said Zabuza. Thank you, said Naruto. When we meet again, I would like to fight with you, Naruto-kun, said Haku. Naruto and Haku became friends very quickly and they had a little rivalry between them. I cannot wait, said Naruto, very happy. After boarding in a huge boat, Naruto waved at Haku and Zabuza as they left. Naruto didn't have much to do on the boat other than talk to the captain. So he decided to go to the cabin at his bedside and start reading the forbidden seals from Forbidden Scroll. Senpo, Myojinman. Sage Art, Gate of the Great God, is a sealing technique utilized by Hashirama Senju while in Sage mode. The user manifests a select number of massive red tori that fall down from above, in order to pin an intended target between the gate and the ground. These tori are quite versatile and can be used in several different ways. For example, piled the tori atop one another in an attempt to increase their ability to immobilize the target. I wonder what that is, that Sage mode, said Naruto. Naruto thought it was right scroll below, so he decided to see what other sealing jutsu were around. Shiki Fujin. Dead Demon Consuming Seal. Shiki Fujin is a sealing technique developed by the Uzumaki clan to call upon the power of the Shinigami. After the hand seals are performed, the user's soul is partly separated from their body and suspended behind them. Behind their soul appears the Shinigami, which restrains their soul with its hair. Only the summoner is able to see the Shinigami at this point. After a few moments, the Shinigami wraps its left arm with prayer beads and chants unintelligibly until a curse seal appears on its arm. It then drives its arm into the summoner's soul, thus allowing the summoner to call upon the Shinigami to seal a target. The Shinigami's arm emerges from the summoner's body and grasps the target's soul. Targets are able to see the Shinigami so long as it's in contact with their soul. Souls can only be freed from the Shinigami's stomach by using Dead Demon Consuming Seal, release, Shiki Fujin, Kai. To use, an individual wears the Shinigami mask, causing them to become possessed by the Shinigami. If the individual wearing the mask slices open their own stomach, the Shinigami will do the same, and any souls inside it will be freed. However, the mask doesn't have any properties that will prevent its user from dying of that injury. Naruto regrets for not reading this part sooner. Wow, this is probably one of the jutsu that other nations feared my clan for. Oh, what stupid is this? I discover a jutsu created by my clan, but I can't try it, said Naruto. But he started to be happy again after he realized in this scroll there could be more jutsu from his clan that he could learn. Naruto couldn't believe what he had just found next. Hiraishin no Jutsu. Flying Thunder God Technique. Before the Hiraishin no Jutsu can be performed, users must first mark a target with their technique formula, Jutsu Shiki. The formula is applied after the merest touch and cannot be removed. It will remain in place even after the user has died. There is seemingly no limit to how many targets can be marked with technique formulas before the Hiraishin no Jutsu can be performed. Users must first mark a target with their technique formula, Jutsu Shiki. The formula is applied after the merest touch and cannot be removed. It will remain in place even after the user has died. There is seemingly no limit to how many targets can be marked with technique formulas. Naruto continued reading until he fell asleep. These jutsu contain a lot of special information, too much information, and Naruto hoped that he will be able to learn this jutsu one day. Time passed quickly for Naruto when he had something interesting to read. Naruto couldn't believe it. He was finally there, the village of his ancestors. The village itself was in ruins, but he had kind of been expecting that. However, based on the ruins, he could tell that Uzushiogakure used to be a great and powerful village. Naruto went to explore, but not before thanking the captain for bringing him here. Zabuza knew how to convince someone when he needed reliable people for a job. Naruto explored the place and come over to a collapsed building just outside the center of the village, which he decided would make for a good base camp. Unknown to Naruto, a woman/girl was watching him from distance, hidden. The woman/girl had dark eyes and long, straight red hair which she wore with a white band. She also wore a purple, sleeveless kimono blouse with yellow trimmings held close by a traditional obi with a long, streaming bow tied to it, mesh armor underneath it, and a short white skirt. Chapter 10. The Lost and Forgotten Uzumaki. The Ancient City of the Uzumaki. After Naruto woke up the next day, he decided to explore the city. Every few moments, Naruto would stop to examine a particular building. Each time, he would find nothing of worth. Everything that was buried in certain areas seemed to have either been destroyed or already taken. It added to the feeling of the area as if not a single soul had walked the grounds of Uzushiogakure in decades. Naruto hoped that maybe he'll find someone alive in this remaining part of island, someone from his clan. But even he knows that not everything went the way he wanted. That was the reality. Naruto decided to try one of the scrolls that Zabuza gave them and train. Suetun, Teppadama, he read. Water release, gunshot. C-rank water style jutsu. Can be used at any range. You turn your chakra into water and then spit it out in the form of rapid-fire water bullets. The more chakra you have, the more bullets you can use and the larger they can become. You will fail the first time you try. It may be C rank, but it's pretty complex. It's going to require you to concentrate a lot of chakra in your mouth and solidify it into water. Note, even if you have no affinity for water, for some water jutsu you can use the water near you instead of you having to create your own water with chakra. Good luck, brat. During this time, Naruto was still seen from a distance by someone. She was expecting him to be just another bandit. There were occasionally bandits who would come to the island and try to loot anything valuable that may have been in the ruins. But then she saw that it was just a child who came to explore the place. What a child alone was doing here alone, she didn't know. She noticed that the boy was getting ready to train. But what surprised her even more was when the boy made 50 Kagebunshin no Jutsu who started to work on a water jutsu. Where did a child have so much chakra? Not even her or her clan had that much chakra unless he is. She quickly used her Kagura Shingana technique that allows her to sense chakra from exceptional distances in great detail. By closing her eyes and opening her mind's eye, by focusing on a particular chakra, she can perceive her target's location and movements in great detail. This ability also gives her the capability to perceive fluctuations in a person's chakra made when they are lying or if someone, including herself, is under a genjutsu. She continued to study him and decided to let him get tired before making a move and talk to him. The land of waves a few days ago. Irika after a while managed to follow the places where Naruto was. Knowing Naruto, the first place he went most often in the places to look for Naruto was the ramen stands. After Irika got there, he found out that Naruto was there and that Naruto was talking to someone to help him get a boat to get in a place of a clan or something like that. It was 2 days ago, so the man from ramen stand didn't remember more than this about what they talked. So Irika decided to go back to Konoha with the information he got. If there was anyone who had any idea of where Naruto could go, it was the Hokage. The ancient city of the Uzumaki. After an hour of training, Naruto decided to rest. He dispelled the clones and was preparing to unseal some ramen, but before he did, he could hear footsteps. Then he saw a young red-haired woman in her 17s was walking to him. "What's your full name, and what are you doing in this place if I may ask?" she asked. Naruto was surprised, but instead of risking a fight or something, he decided to answer simply. But he already had some hope that the person in front of him might be like him. When he reached her, Naruto saw that she was 6 inches taller than him, not that it bothered him anyway. "I am Naruto of the Uzumaki clan," Naruto answered. She gasped. Her theory has proven to be true. Naruto saw tears building up in her eyes before falling down her face. While she spent her time isolated from other people in solitude, even she could not hide the joy she felt right now. "I wasn't sure because Uzumaki normally have red hair, but you're another Uzumaki, like me," she said through joyful tears as she reached out and embraced Naruto affectionately. "I'm Uzumaki Anoka. We're of the same clan. You are a descendant of the Uzumaki clan like me." Naruto couldn't believe what his ears heard. He wasn't expected to be true, but it was. It was so much all at once, hearing and seeing another Uzumaki before his eyes, holding and crying happily while embracing him. "Another Uzumaki, like me," Naruto repeated lowly as he allowed her words to sink deep into his heart. When it did, he also burst into tears and silently cried happily as he embraced Anoka. "I'm not alone anymore. I found a precious Uzumaki sister," Naruto exclaimed as he laughed happily. Naruto and Anoka were still holding onto each other in their tear-filled affectionate embrace. Both Uzumaki had long thought that they were the only one left, and now they both found each other. After a couple of minutes, Anoka and Naruto pulled away and stood in front of each other as they smiled and wiped the tears away from their eyes. Taking a breath, Naruto said, "This is so cool." "So Naruto, what is your tale?" Anoka asked. "That is a long tale. I'll tell you later, but half of it isn't a happy tale," said Naruto. "We stand in the ruins of one of the greatest villages in the world." Anoka sighed. I doubt any story told here will be happy. Naruto noticed that Anoka's expression of happiness was neutral now. It reminded him a little of Itachi. Spending a lot of time alone had different effects on people. Anoka noticed that Naruto was a ninja but had no Hitayate on his head. "What kind of a ninja are you?" Anoka asked. "One of a kind," Naruto remarked. Such modesty, Anoka snickered cynically. "Yeah, I am. As a shinobi, I have the power to protect the people I care about, my friends, and you as well, Anoka-nichan. I don't want to kill people, but it's a sad fact of this reality. And it will stay that way until there are people who decide to change it." Anoka noticed that Naruto wanted to do this after his gaze. "It will be interesting with you here, and he only meet me and he already thinks of me as his Nechan," thought Anoka. "Interesting, but tell me, are you doing this because it's right thing to do or because you enjoy doing this?" asked Anoka. Anoka, like Itachi, was testing his ideology and beliefs. "I wasn't sure at first, maybe I wanted to do it because it was like a goal or to be acknowledged, but now I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do," said Naruto. "Come with me, we can continue the discussion at the place where I live," said Anoka. Naruto noticed that Anoka seemed to prefer going barefoot. "For someone who doesn't use sandals, you're sure fast on your feet," Naruto complimented. Below the ruins of Uzushiogakure no Sato, Anoka was living below ground. She knew her heart needed to be close to her old home, but the ancient city of the Uzumakis was just too depressing. And while it wasn't a common occurrence, there were occasionally bandits who would come to the island and try to loot anything valuable that may have been in the ruins. Naruto could only imagine the atmosphere and the feeling of utter despair that permeated these tunnels when the last of Yuzu's defenses fell. This place was an emergency shelter. Anoka lived in an old tunnel network which was used as a food storage facility and a shelter for emergencies. While it may seem more sensible to live in the village, the pain of living among the corpses of your clansmen was too much for her to bear. This place was also closer to the hidden library of the Uzumaki clan, the place where all she found and accumulated knowledge of the Uzumaki clan was stored, so that made it much more convenient. Anoka had a lot of time to make this into a hiding and living place. "I will go make some tea, come with me," Anoka said without any expressions. Before Naruto could say anything else, she took him off toward the kitchen. Once they entered her kitchen, they were both now sitting at a table waiting for tea to be ready. "I will tell you everything I know, Uzumaki and Senju clan. Both clans came from a common ancestor. I'm still trying to find more informative books, but this is all I know," Anoka explained. "The members of our clan were all blessed with astonishingly long lives, to the point that our village was known as the Village of Longevity. We also have large chakra reserves due to this and had healing powers which we have inherited. The spiral symbol on your arm and the symbol on the back of your jacket is the symbol of our clan." Anoka gave Naruto a picture of the ocean's whirlpools that surrounded their homeland and its landscape. The blonde was captivated by the beauty that Yuzu no Kuni was filled with. "I was born in Yuzu no Kuni, but my mother and I were among the surviving Uzumaki who escaped after enemy shinobi villages joined forces to rise up and destroy our homeland," said Anoka. "Why didn't Konoha help during the invasion?" Naruto asked. "I don't know. I was too young back then to understand why all those bad things were happening to our clan, and why our people had so many enemies. It was a most chaotic period, and the Shinobi World War brought about more casualties to our Uzumaki brethren who escaped the destruction of Yuzu no Kuni, since some hadn't found safe homes yet," said Anoka. "Not all Uzumaki were fighters, so they didn't know that much Jutsu, only it was used more often. Konoha somehow win the war, even if they are right in the middle of the map surrounded by everyone. Those countries fought also against each other, but what probably made it possible for Konoha to win were the casualties the invading forces suffered against Yuzu," Anoka explained. When the invasion appeared, Ashina Uzumaki, not wanting his family to be captured and sold and bred like common animals, he and the Uzumakis took desperate measure the moment they knew they would be wiped out. Ashina made sure that the Uzumaki who were there learned at that moment Shiki Fujin, and with that all of them summoned the Shinigami who then annihilated any life on the island. All Uzumaki having a lot of chakra, they made sure to seal all the enemies together with them. I believe it was a mercy killing for all Uzumaki in comparison of what they would have to endure otherwise if they were captured. After that, let's just say that many people were afraid to dare to claim this island. Naruto could now understand why Anoka was trying to look emotionless. That was dark. Naruto decided to change the subject and ask her something else. And, what did you do after that? My mother ran, but lost contact with the other Uzumaki survivors. We were ultimately on our own, and after long time at some point IWA Hunter Nin were after us. While on the run for the first 9 years of my life, my mother taught me all she knew in terms of seals and being a kunoichi. In time, though, a group of IWA Hunter Nin found and ambushed us. We were outnumbered and outmatched, and they were bent of taking us back to Iwagakure alive. I tried to help my mother, but I didn't have as much experience in battling ninja, and my mother had to protect me. Anoka said after that she had a sad look. Things only got worse as more ninja appeared and surrounded us in large numbers. Despite her fatal injury, she was still able to summon chakra chains and trap the group of hunters and the additional group of ninja that arrived. That was when my mother then instructed me to leave. I argued and told her that I wanted to stay and help, crying while telling her that she was all I had left. She smiled but told me firmly that I had to live for her and the rest of our people, and she asked me to find happiness. Anoka had tears running down her face as she recalled the incident. She wiped her tears away and continued. She then executed Shiki Fujin and with her remaining strength summoned the Shinigami. My mother made sure none of the enemy ninja survived. Naruto nodded his head quietly. Anoka continued her story. Despite the hot tears that ran down my face, I got up and ran as fast as I could. I didn't dare to look back again. I just kept running forward, promising myself that I would get stronger and live as the surviving legacy of my clan. But life as a homeless orphan was no easy life. I traveled from place to place, looking for a home to make for myself while stealing what food and clothes I could get in order to survive. All that while I studied and practiced everything I learned from my mother. Several years later, a group of scientists and researchers recruited me for a project they were working on in Kuchios no Shima, Samoang Island. The island itself is located somewhere east of Hai no Kuni and south of Kaminari no Kuni, Lightning Country, where research of summoning animals and development of them were done. The goal of these researchers was to go into these remote islands to find new species of summoning animals to sell to shinobi so they could form contracts with them later on. However, as the demand for new types of summoning animals began to rise, these researchers did what any greedy person would do, which was to create the ultimate summoning beast which they can use to control everything. Anoka explained they did this by crossbreeding summoning animals and mixing genetics in a lab with the goal of making new summoning creatures that they could sell to ninja nations. I needed money to survive and come back here, so I accepted the job. They needed me for the sealing jutsu I had in my chains, said Anoka. Naruto wanted to ask her what chain she was referring to but decided to leave the questions at the end. The lab was located in the mouth of a volcano, and I was assigned to restrain the beast using my sealing techniques. But one fateful day, I was unable to restrain the beast after it had gone berserk, and it killed all of the scientists and researchers. I fought the creature, but the beast, being the ultimate summoning, is able to use ninjutsu. It had summoning abilities, it was able to cast genjutsu, and it could absorb chakra. The beast started to massacre the researchers around me. Somehow I know despite my best efforts a summoning beast with all these traits was too much for me, and I know I will fail to seal the beast away. The beast also have the power of all summoning creatures in shinobi that it ate. Then I stopped and ran away. Something in my mind told me that maybe another day I could stop it, but not yet. I had to keep living for our clan. I managed to take all I had and enough money for food for a long time and come here to research what was left of our clan. So far I have only found this place. And that leads us to where we are now, Naruto-kun, said Anoka. Naruto took a moment to take in everything Anoka told him about her life story. It was very clear that Anoka had a hard life. Naruto felt bad that those happy times were tragically cut short by unforeseen events. But what he admired about Anoka was that she kept growing stronger instead of giving up and became a surviving legacy of her clan. Now is your turn, tell me your tale, said Anoka. Naruto went into detail, explaining everything that happened from the time he ran away from Konoha. Anoka noticed that he did not explain much about Konoha other than why he ran away and what he did at that time. Anoka thought Naruto would tell her all the details one day, but today he didn't seem ready. Naruto told her about friends he made on the road and how he got here. Naruto, like her, had a hard life. Anoka leaned down and kissed Naruto on the cheek. Naruto couldn't help but blush, seeing as Anoka was the first female in his entire life to ever kiss him. Naruto was looking at Anoka and asked her in a soft voice, "Why did you kiss me?" "Is this a problem, Naruto?" asked Anoka. "I guess not. I just never been kissed before by someone. This is something new for me," said Naruto. "Well, don't worry about it. That kiss I gave you was because you said you see me as your Nachan, that why I will from now on always be there for you," said Anoka. Tears had begun to appear on Naruto's face. Naruto and Anoka still had a lot to talk about. Fortunately, they had plenty of time. Night. "These are chakra paper," Anoka said, holding one up. "Channel your chakra into it and it will react according to chakra nature." "But I already did this." "I have wind," said Naruto. "This chakra paper is special," Anoka said. "It reacts to any and all the chakra natures you have an affinity for, rather than just the strongest. Our clan make them a lot of times. I can teach you if you want." Naruto accepted the paper. The paper had a special seal on it, channeling his chakra into it. It first split into two, one half crumpling and the other getting wet. Naruto stared in shock. Fire makes it burn, lightning crumples it, earth makes it crumble into dust, wind cuts it in two, and water gets it wet. Anoka explained. "Normally almost all Uzumaki have water and wind. I assume that one of your parents had lightning." "Yes, it is amazing. Tell me more about you and your abilities, Anoka-nichan," said Naruto. "Chakra chains and Fuinjutsu have always been my strongest points. But I do know some water jutsu. Usually our clan has an affinity for wind and water. As the paper showed us, your next affinity will be water," Anoka replied. "I'm a little knowledgeable in seals too, and we have something in common, though I don't have the experience in chakra chains or seals like you do. But I will one day," Naruto said with his trademark smile. Then Naruto remembered something he hoped would leave Anoka speechless. Naruto pulled out a small scroll. He opened it and revealed the scroll. He focused chakra into the scroll and commanded, "Kai." The scroll burst, and a forbidden scroll was released from the scroll. "You are not the only one who has forbidden jutsu left from our clan, Anoka-nichan," said Naruto while opening it. Naruto started showing Anoka many of the jutsu he had in the scroll. Chapter 11. Hot Springs and Unexpected Meeting. Below the ruins of Uzushiogakure no Sato. The seal holding the Kyuubi back inside you is based on an Uzumaki seal. "I think we just found them," said Anoka. Naruto and Anoka were in the library and were looking at the forbidden scroll which Naruto showed her. Shisho Fuin. For symbol seal. This technique requires a great deal of talent to perform. The user applies the seal's formula to an object or a human's body, sealing a large enemy or an evil spirit within them. If two 4-symbol seal are used, a stronger seal is created. This is called the 8-trigram sealing style. If the 4-symbol seals do not completely overlap with each other, this allows the enemy/spirit's chakra to merge with whoever they've been sealed into. The 4-symbol seal is based on the Fuinjutsu of Uzushiogakures Uzumaki clan. The 4-symbol seal is also left on the stomachs of those who perform the Shiki Fujin. Hack no Fuin Shiki. 8-trigram sealing style. A 4-symbol seal is used to seal a large enemy or an evil spirit into a target, such as an object or a human's body. A stronger seal is created if two 4-symbol seal are used. This is called the 8-trigram sealing style. If the 4-symbol seals do not completely overlap with each other, this allows the enemy/spirit's chakra to merge with whoever they've been sealed into. This seal is intended to encourage tailed beasts to aid the Jinchuriki they've been sealed within, as the more they provide chakra, the weaker the seal becomes, and thus the better their chance of freedom. Only those of our Uzumaki bloodline can hold the Kyuubi. Because of this special chakra we have said Anoka. Naruto told Anoka about Kyuubi. She already figured out when she used her ability first time. Anoka wouldn't have ever thought that life as a Jinchuriki would have been that harsh and indescribably brutal. It astounds her that Naruto didn't turn into the very demon that Konoha saw as over the years when Naruto told her about this. But when Anoka used Kagura Shingon again near Naruto, there was something she couldn't understand. Naruto had 4 different types of chakras, his own chakra. Another one of the Kyuubi.